live chat. I'm full.
I am too.
Like, I'm really full. Oh, we were supposed to switch out this mic. I hope there isn't issues with it. Oof.
Can we change it?
I don't know, because I don't know if I should have changed it beforehand. I don't want to change it and then it stopped working.
That's true.
Altogether. That would suck. Yeah, we need to know if our mic's working, guys. Please let us know if our mic is working okay. Pretty please and thank you. That'd be great to know. Hi, guys. Hello. How are you? How is our mic sounding? I hope it doesn't cut out. It's working. Okay. Okay, good. So, I'm thinking we'll leave the chat on so we can glance up here and there. You just can't sit there and read it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a lot to...
Only because we want to glance up here and there, because if this is cutting out or not working, I kind of want to be able to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to be able to look up and see. So we'll leave the chat visible to us. Last time we hit it so we didn't get distracted. She just has to make sure that, okay, yeah, so she just has to make sure she doesn't sit there and watch it, read your chats the whole time. Okay. So, our beautiful Hobie has saved our spot for us on where we were on the live, or on the book, I mean. We have a Hobie in the middle. So we had just finished reading the part that made me cry very much.
Mm-hmm.
And we are continuing on from here. Now okay, so we just finished eating. I apologize if I'm having to clear my throat a lot. That
or she
happens.
Has to, like, burp.
I don't think I'll have to burp. If I burp, I always burp silently. You just might smell it. We had wings, and I had Louisiana dry rub wings from Wingstop, which is freaking delicious. They're so good, but they're literally covered in seasoning, and that seasoning gets to me. It does things to my... Yeah, I end up having digestive issues, but they're so good. Anyway, so yeah, so I have something in my eyeball. I think I'm good now. So yeah. Anyway, after I eat, I have a hard time. Like I don't know. I always have to like clear my throat a lot after I finish eating. I don't know why, but it's like really annoying. So I apologize if I'm clearing my throat a lot while I'm reading. But I mean, I gotta eat sometimes. So I have my water. I do have a piece of gum in my mouth, so I hope that doesn't, and your chewing doesn't pick up on the mic too much, because you're like really close to the mic. Don't chew all up in the mic. I'm gonna move this mic away from her. All right, guys, if you are following along, we are on page 130. That's where we're starting out. Okay, so we're starting out page 130. Jin is 22 years old, and we are reading a story from JK, okay? And I tend to say their stage names because sometimes I have hard pronunciation with real names. So if I say nicknames or stage names or whatever, just you know who I'm talking about, so it's fine. Okay, so the 22nd of May. This is 2 days after the last one, where Taehyung and Hobie walked Taehyung home, decided to end up going back and going into the house instead of, they just changed the course of, instead of V stabbing his dad, he ended up like breaking the bottle and his hand got cut instead, but his dad left. So a series of events just changed, and that was of course due to Jin encouraging Hobie to go back and ask V a question. So Jim's kind of playing puppet master a little bit to try to make it so that they're kind of helping save each other since he can't do it all himself. Is what we are at so far. Yeah, they can't save themselves, and he can't save all of them on his own. So he's trying to figure out the pattern and how to work it to where he can, you know, they can save each other. So, yeah. So we're on JK 133, or 130, sorry. Sorry, I'm putting like my gum on one side of my mouth so it doesn't bother me while I'm reading. Someone shook my shoulder to wake me up. When I opened my eyes, the car window was filled entirely with the seascape. The sea breeze felt chilly, probably because I was only half awake. I wrapped myself with both arms and got out of the car. I'm gonna have to spit out this gum. There's no way. There's no way. Sorry. My mouth just kept watering because the flavor of the gum was in my mouth, and like that was just not going to happen. Okay. The others, already far out on the beach where the waves broke against the shore, waved at me. Beyond them was the sea, and above the sea was the sun. The entire scene looked like a still frame. The wind picked up and filled the still frame with raging sand, just as I raised my hand to wave back. The gritty dust rose from the ground and swirled about. The others turned around all at once, covering their faces to ward off the grainy wind. I did the same, shutting my eyes tightly, bending my head and covering my face with my arm. We stood in this position among the sounds of lapping waves and whistling wind for a long time. I tried to open my eyes, but they stung from the sand. Don't rub them, it'll just make it worse. Upon hearing Hobie, I slowly blinked. The sea, the sky, and the others kept appearing and disappearing through the tears welling up in my eyes. After I blinked several times, tears streamed down and the stinging subsided. The tears must have flushed the grains of sand out. I heard the others laughing. They were laughing at me standing in the middle of the empty beach, shedding tears. It was unclear who began to run first. It started out as a silly game. I pretended to chase the others who kept making fun of me. Hobie darted off as if he was fleeing from me. Then the rest joined in, running towards and away from one another and laughing joyfully. At some point, we were all running along the coastal road. I ran behind the others. I was out of breath, sweaty, and had a splitting headache. But I didn't stop because they continued on. We'd all met again, sprung Jimin from the hospital, and returned to the same beach. It was all unplanned. All I'd done was tag along, but it felt exhilarating. Maybe running around blankly was the only way for me to deal with that fearfully thrilling sensation. I'd done the same when we all ditched school and came to this beach the first time. That's right. We were like this back then, too, RM said when we dropped down on the beach to catch our breath. I think it was just as hot then. When was it? It was Jimin. It was June 12th. My good memory took everyone by surprise. I remembered exactly because the photo we had taken on this beach was marked with the date. I sometimes took it out and stared at it. I didn't tell anyone, but I felt on that long ago day that I had finally found a real family, real brothers. Guys, I began to express my gratitude, but found myself at a loss for words. What? The others rushed me one by one and flung themselves at me, rolled around on the beach, tangled up together, playing like children. Why are you here alone? I sank down next to V, who was sitting in one corner of the sandy beach away from the others. He looked at me briefly and asked a question instead. Was that there the last time we came here? He was talking about the observatory. If it was, we would have climbed it, but I don't remember it. He nodded in agreement, and he kept staring at the observatory. Let's go. Someone tapped my shoulder, and it was Jin. His face unrecognizable as he was standing against the light. It must have been because I was looking up at him from a sitting position, but he looked so tall. I stood up, dusted off the sand. My feet sank deep into the burning sand. I sneaked into Jin's shadow and walked on, kicking the sand with the tips of my sneakers. The sand I kicked up splattered onto Jin's pants, but he didn't look back. So same day, V. I had seen this all before in a dream that felt too vivid and too real. I saw the sea, the seven of us, and the towering observatory. I stood on the observatory at the end of the dream. Everyone looked up at me. They were far away, so their faces were hard to see. Still, I smiled at them, as if I was bidding them farewell, and then I jumped. Jin, hearing Jungkook, I turned my head to see Jin climbing the observatory. At the very top, he turned his body towards us. He seemed to be trying to photograph us. The others waved at him, but I couldn't. It was like the last scene in my dream. The only difference was that Jin was up there instead of me. At that moment, it felt as if the ground sank under my feet and my body floated in the air. I shut my eyes tightly, fearing my body might plummet to the ground. I didn't clench my fist, but the wound on my palm began to hurt. The wound seemed deep, but healed more quickly than I expected. It left a red scar. Sometimes it hurt intensely, like I was being punished for all my wrongdoings. It hurt now. So we know that V had already said that he's dreamt several things that like are in the storyline, but V's dreaming them and seeing these things in his dreams, almost like he's having like premonitions or something in a way. So that's why he was saying like, oh yeah, I dreamt this, but it was him on the observatory, not Jin, which is what we actually see in was it the highlight reels, guys? No, not the highlight reels. Sorry. The prologue. The prologue. I'm pretty sure that's what. So the prologue, when he says that he dreamt of him standing up there, so was the prologue just his dream? You know what I'm saying? So that's interesting. So like I don't know. Like was the prologue just Tae's dream, and that was at the end of that? Was that Tae dreaming of himself standing at the top? But in the in Euphoria, when Jin's up there, I think it was Euphoria, when Jin's up there, that's actually happening. Unlike in the prologue, it was just one of Tae's dreams. You know what I'm saying? So I think they just called it an observatory, not the scaffolding. It just might be the word for it. But yeah, it was definitely scaffolding. But in the book, they just call it observatory. But it's the same thing that they're talking about. But yeah, so I'm kind of confused and interested with that one. Is was if that's the case, based on what Tae just said, does that mean him standing at the top of it and like getting ready to jump in prologue was just a dream, and it was just like a dream that he had, and that part didn't actually happen? I don't know. Interesting. Okay, so we're on RM. Same day. He's only a year younger than I am. No, I didn't say so. I'm older. I know. But he's not a kid anymore. It's time he started taking care of himself. I got it. No, I'm not mad. Sorry. I looked down at the ground after I hung up the phone. We were on our way to our lodging after spending the day at the beach. A lukewarm breeze was blowing our way. It felt like my heart was clogged and would burst at any minute. Ants were marching in file on the ground covered with sand and dirt. It wasn't that I didn't love my parents. It wasn't that I didn't worry about my brother. I'd turn a deaf ear to them. I'd turn a deaf ear to them. I'd turn a deaf ear to them if I could, but I knew I'd never be able to. I knew that all too well. Then, what was the use of struggling? Losing my temper, feeling distressed, and trying to break free. Far off, someone was standing still, like me, with his back turned. It was JK. JK once told me, I want to be just like you when I grow up. I couldn't bring myself to confess that I was far from an adult, let alone an exemplary one. It seemed too brutal to crush his hope then. I couldn't tell someone so young, someone who hadn't been given trust, support, and affection he deserved, that you just don't become an adult by getting older and taller. I wish JK's future would be kinder to him than mine was to me, but I couldn't promise that I'd be any help to him along the way. Jin, same day. I looked at the others again. They were making silly jokes, laughing, chatting, and roaring with laughter again when someone sprang up and started dancing. I couldn't believe what was unfolding before my eyes. We got here together after so many trials and errors. I dreamt of this for so long and so desperately that it seemed impossible it was actually happening. But I felt uneasy because I still had something to confess. I kept hesitating and couldn't muster up the courage, but I couldn't run away from it all. Couldn't run away from it all anymore. Unless I told them, I wouldn't be able to look at my friends in the face. When dinner was almost over, I told them I had something to say, but they didn't pay much attention. Only Taehyung was staring at me. Several days ago, he came to me and asked me about the dream he'd been having. You know what it means, right? He pressed me for an answer, but I acted like I didn't know. I said, how could I know? It was just a dream. V got upset and turned away. It wasn't a complete lie. I didn't know why V had been having such a dream, but I did know how brutal it was. That's why I couldn't tell him the truth. All the more so because I knew he was wondering about. He didn't need to know that it wasn't a dream, him killing his father, but that it happened in real life, repetitively. No one should go through life with such agony. I wouldn't take my decision back even if it hurt our friendship. I turned my head away to avoid V's eyes. I closed my mouth, caught my breath, and spoke more clearly this time. I have something to tell you. RM and Hobie stared at me, and the others also quieted down. I should have told you this a long time ago, when we were in high school. V interrupted. When we were in high school? When you ratted on us to the principal? Or when Suga got kicked out of school because of that? Which one are you talking about? Criticism was plainly written on V's face. V, Namjoon called him in an obvious attempt to hold him back. V shook RM's hand off with his eyes solidly fixed on me. That was all you're doing. No one said anything. Everyone was caught off guard and couldn't think of anything to say. I looked at Suga. V was right. Suga was expelled from school because of me. I mumbled with my head bent low. I'm sorry. V began to speak again. V, same day. Jin, is that all? Aren't you hiding something from us? I glared at Jin. He stared back at me. I was about to press him harder when someone grabbed my shoulder to stop me. I knew who it was without looking back. It was RM. Don't cut in. Why do you care? You're not even my real brother. I could feel RM's eyes on the back of my head. I shook his hand off without even looking at him. I knew it, too. I was taking my anger out on RM. When I was heading for our lodging from the beach, passing through the pine forest, I heard RM talking on the phone. Every word he said was right. I was only a year younger, and I wasn't his real brother. I had taken care of myself, but it still hurt. V, I'm sorry. Let's just stop here. It was Jin who first opened his mouth. Jin was the one who told me he was sorry. RM didn't say anything. He just kept staring at me with angry eyes. Stop what? Just lay it all out. You're hiding something from us. Everyone's gaze was now fixed on Jin, and Jin gave a look that seemed to tell us to stop. Let's go outside and talk. RM grabbed my arm again. I tried to shake his hand off, but he tightened his grip to take me outside. I braced myself against him. Let me go. What right do you think you have? What do you know? You don't know anything. You think you're something special, huh? It was then RM abruptly let go of my arm, and I stumbled in reaction. Or it wasn't a reaction that made me stumble. The moment he let go of my arm, it felt as if that chain that linked us snapped in the middle. Everything that propped me up and served as my footing seemed to crack and split. Maybe I was hoping he wouldn't let go of my arm till the end. Maybe I was hoping he'd yell at me to shut up and drag me outside fuming. Maybe I was hoping he'd give me a good scolding like he would his real brother or someone too precious to give up. But he released my arm. I couldn't help but smirk. I was smirking before I knew it. I spit out, what was all the fuss about being together? What are we to each other? We are all alone in the end. At that moment, Jin hit me. Shit's getting real and it's making me really sad. Like, there's bits and pieces of this that I don't remember. So, like, from the first time that and because I didn't read this. I read, like, notes that someone had sent me the link to. And so, like, I don't know. I feel like there's bits and pieces of this that maybe for some reason I just don't remember it. Or maybe I didn't, like, get that one note. I don't know. Anyway, okay. We're on Jimin. Same day. We should go, too. That's what Hobie said. I turned my head, looking past the door of our lodging. The tables, chairs, pots, and dishes were scattered all over the place. Jimin, come on. I closed the door hurriedly. Oh, Hobie's saying that to Jimin. I'm like, why is he saying that to himself? We're all Jimin. Jimin, come on. I closed the door hurriedly. They were way ahead of me. Suga and Hobie took the lead, with JK following closely behind them. There were 7 of us when we first came, and now only 4 were left. I looked up as we passed the observatory. There was no light on the beach after sunset. The observatory and the sea, which drew us into darkness, and nothing was visible. There was only the roar of the lapping waves. I realized that this was the place we visited when we first came to the sea together, the rock which was said to make dreams come true. We cried out at the top of our lungs on the same spot where the rock had been blown to bits, and to make way for a new resort. JK, wasn't it somewhere around here? I looked back, but JK was already bolting way ahead of the others. Hobie called after him, but he didn't seem to hear. It occurred to me then. JK is also moving forward along his own path. JK had always been behind the others. He had tagged along and stopped when the others stopped. I was the same. I looked in every direction at intersection. I had to turn left to get to the train station or right to take the bus home. I had to go back home someday. I couldn't avoid it forever. I had to confess my lies and tell the truth to my parents, even if they weren't willing to hear them. I had to start fastening the first button at some point. I saw Suga step into the road on the left. Jimin, hurry up. Hobie turned his head towards me. Hobie, I'm going home now. With a puzzled look, he asked, home? I nodded, and then I turned right. JK. Same day. I felt like my body was floating in the air, but the next minute I was lying hard on the ground. I couldn't feel anything for some time. My entire body felt so heavy that I couldn't even lift my eyelids. I couldn't swallow or breathe. After I fell into a semi-conscious state, I grew warmer and warmer, and my body suddenly shook all over. An indefinable pain and thirst instinctively forced my eyes open. Something shimmery caught my eye, which felt dried out as if filled with sand. At first, I thought it was a light, but it wasn't. It was bright, big, and blurry. It hung in the air motionless. I kept staring at it for a while, and it began to take shape. It was the moon. The world appeared upside down. My head must have been tilted back. In that world, the moon was also upside down. I tried to breathe by coughing, but I couldn't move. A cold fit swept over my body. It was frightening. I tried to open my lips, but I couldn't utter a word. My vision kept fading, even though my eyes were open. Someone asked me a question as my consciousness grew dimmer and dimmer. It'll be more painful to live than to die. Do you still want to live? Is that when he got hit by the car? Because it said that he ran ahead, and Jimin said that he stopped to look left or right, to choose which way to go. Do you think JK bolted and that's when JK got hit by the car?
Possibly. I do know one thing.
What?
I have to pee.
She has to pee, guys. We're on a pee break. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, obviously we know that that's something that happens in the storyline.
Because we never got to see what happened.
But we never really got to see what happened after that part in the storyline. I'm not crying, thankfully. I cried a lot the last time I started reading, or last week when I was reading. But yeah, so I'm wondering if that's the part in the book that I'm thinking of. Oh, hey guys. But yeah, I'm wondering if that is why, if that's what's happening right now, is he just got hit by a car and this is what he's going through after just getting hit and he doesn't even realize what happened. Yeah, I think he's injured probably in the car accident. That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah, them fighting and stuff on the beach and almost Tay pushing RM away to see if he would leave or to see if he would stay type of thing, that's awful. But people who are in pain like that and have been hurt by people that they love their entire life and have felt people disappearing on them their entire lives will do that. It's almost like they'll test the people who do love them and who do want to be there for them to see how much they love them. Do they really want to be here, or are they just here out of obligation? If I push and push and push and they stay, then I know that it's true. But if I push and push and push and they go away, they're just like the rest of them. You know what I mean? Some people yeah, I saw the fight in the Japanese Blood, Sweat, and Tears, right? That whole fight scene. Yeah. So that's I think what was going on with that. And with when RM let his arm go, it was kind of I knew it. Everyone's alone anyway. What's the point of all this? It's him bitter and angry and sad. Yeah, it's just really sad. And from that sparks all this other stuff starting to happen. Yeah. I'll have some water since we're on a pee break anyway. You missed about 12 pages. I started at 1:30 and I'm on 142. I missed them after they got out of the hospital. They got Jimin out of the hospital and they went to the beach again. And you missed them at the beach and they just got into an argument. And they're fighting. And we think JK may have just gotten hit by the car. We're not 100% sure. Oh my god, I don't know what she's doing. She said she just had to pee. Maybe she had to do more than pee. I don't know. I think she's coming now. Maybe. I don't know. Well, it's about time. Why did you have to take off your... Oh, because it's too long?
It's so long.
It would go in the toilet.
Yeah. I was like, let me not do that.
Yeah, that's probably not a great
thing. And then I
thing.
got dripping, and I was like, what the fuck is dripping? And it's a fish. Realize it's your bathtub.
My bathtub? Oh, probably didn't turn off the handle properly. Yeah. Okay.
Thought I was going crazy.
No, you're not. It's just the bathtub.
Just the bathtub.
Just the bathtub.
And then I was gonna put my hair up, and then I was like, nah.
Nah. I mean, you probably could just move it from your face. I mean, okay. Definitely, like, dramatic. We're having enough drama in this book. We don't need your added drama. Are we, like, ready? Or do we just want to, make this? You already took long enough peeing. I think you might have pooped along with it. I don't know.
No.
That took a hot minute.
No, I was just sitting in there, contemplating life. And then
While everyone's waiting for you.
And then I realized there was no more toilet paper.
It's right above you.
I didn't realize that as I sat in there.
It's literally, you just go with this and you grab the extra roll right above you on the shelf.
Yeah, I didn't
Caitlin's clearly stalling. Seriously. You can
wanna-
thank her. You can thank her because I'm literally just waiting for her to, like, be ready to start again.
Hold on.
Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh, no. Oh.
It's, like, half falling out already. Okay, I'm not waiting for you again. Let's do this.
fine.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. All right, the next gray section we are starting says, after returning from the sea. Okay? So we are on, this skipped, this was May 22nd is the date we were just on.
Mm-hmm.
We now skipped to June 13th. Okay? So we're like a couple, like 3 weeks fast forward. Okay. We're on Jin. After returning from the sea, we went back to our solitary lives. As if we'd made a rule, no one called each other. We just vaguely assumed how the others were doing based on the graffiti we saw on the streets, the bright light of the gas station, and the piano sounds coming from the dilapidated building. The lodging on the beach was empty when I came back after failing to find V when he ran out that night. There was nothing except for a photo on the floor. In the photo, we were smiling together with the sea in the background. It had only been a few hours earlier, but it seemed like such a long time ago. Had we worked so hard for so long for no reason? Were we destined to fall apart like this? I passed the gas station without stopping. We'd meet again someday. We'd laugh together someday as we did in the photo. I'd gather enough courage to face myself someday, but today was not the time. A damp wind blew just like that day. At that moment, my phone rang as if sending me a warning. The phone sent reverberations, I can't ever say that word, to the photo hung on the rearview mirror. Hobie's name appeared on the screen. JK got into an accident that night. So I knew it. So Hobie messaged him to let him know he got into an accident that night. Okay, so same day, JK. I heard faint voices and opened my eyes to find Hobie and Jimin gazing at me. Every time I blinked, their faces kept disappearing and appearing again. Are you hurt? Are you in pain? Jimin asked. I'm fine. I'm not hurt. It was a lie. It was a serious accident and I had almost died. The doctors kept warning the others for days that they should be prepared for the worst case scenario. I regained consciousness after 10 days and began to recuperate at an astonishing rate. You should have called us. What are we to you? Hobie sounded mad. Hobie, it's not that I began to talk, but I couldn't finish the sentence. As soon as I came to myself at the hospital, I thought of them. If I would have been able to think straight, I would have called them first, but my mind was blank and I was in pain. The sedative they gave me was so strong that reality, dreams, and memories and illusions all seemed to be knotted up in my head and were impossible to disentangle. Your sleeve is so long that I'm like on it. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just didn't want to like accidentally rip it because I was putting pressure on it while you were moving. Okay. The unbearable pain finally subsided, but the strange images that flashed before my eyes while suffering from fever and insomnia came coming back. I wasn't sure whether those scenes had actually happened or they were just twisted nightmares triggered by severe pain. I couldn't trust my memory, but I could still contact them. I didn't know what to say or how to even start talking. I just smiled at them. Or I tried to smile at them. My face must have looked like it was all twisted up and I was about to cry. Hobie, same day. I walked out of the room because I felt tears welling up. JK saying he was fine was heart-wrenching. I had just heard of JK's accident that afternoon. Their burger joint was packed with pedestrians taking shelter from the rain. Some of them were JK's classmates. How come JK doesn't show up anymore? I didn't ask this question for any particular reason. I'd lost contact with all the others after returning from the sea, including JK. Then an unexpected answer came my way. Oh, he was in an accident, so he's been absent. An accident? Is he hurt badly? We don't know. He hasn't been to school for, 20 days? I called him immediately, but JK didn't answer. I was about to call again, but decided to open our group chat instead. No new messages over the past 20 days. The last message was from when we were at the sea. Was it then? That night when we all parted and went back home? Was it that night? I left a message that JK was badly hurt and that whatever everyone was up to, it was ridiculous not to know what had happened to him for over 20 days. The number next to my message didn't budge, meaning none of the others opened the chat to read my message. Did our days together mean nothing? Were we fair weather friends? I got mad at myself. Mad for not calling him earlier, mad for letting him return home alone. JK was not a child, but he was the youngest, and he was still just a student. I strolled up and down the hallway a few times and stopped in front of his room. Through the cracked door, I recognized JK's face. He clearly wasn't fine. He looked pale as a sheet. Suddenly, the image of JK coming through the door of our empty hideout came into my mind. He was just in his 3rd year of middle school. His naive face showed sense of loss, as if he realized something had come to an end. Did our existence remind him of that sense of loss? 4 of the others hadn't checked my message to this group chat yet. I posted another message. This is disappointing. You? Dancing? When I stepped into the room, Jimin and JK were talking about a dance crew. Jimin said it had only been 2 weeks since he joined the crew and turned his head bashfully. That's right. You were a good dancer. We should all go and see you dance. V's call came through at that moment. What have you been doing? Why didn't you check my message earlier? I tried to sound angrier than I actually was. V stuttered in a croaky voice as if he had been crying. So now we're on V. How's JK? That's all I could say. I wrapped up my shift at the convenience store and stepped onto the street to find puddles here and there. It had rained a few hours ago. I'd noticed the rain when I turned my head to look out the glass door when one of the customers bought an umbrella. My face was reflected back to me in a puddle. My eyes filled with tears and my throat was choked. Hobie said he was with JK and JK looked better than he thought. I dropped down. I'm okay. Hobie must have handed the phone over to JK. He seemed to be pretending that he was okay. How about you? Worry about yourself was my reply. My reply was curt with meaning to be. JK laughed bashfully. I'm going over there right now. I couldn't keep my word. I got to the hospital in no time, ran up the stairs because I couldn't wait for the elevator, and darted down the hallway. I was just about to jump into JK's room, but I froze there. I could hear voices through the cracked door. It was RM. Jin was there too. I stepped back without realizing it. I'm always the same, RM said. Indeed, he was. He was just going on with his life. I dropped down on a bench in the hallway. People in patient uniforms walked by, and some were in tears. If someone asked, I must have answered the same, that I was always the same. That was the truth. I just went back and forth between my house and the convenience store. Dad was still drinking and making trouble from time to time. The indoor light was still dim, and the drain got clogged frequently. There was one change. The nightmare had stopped. The nightmare of Suga dying, of JK falling, of Hobie in a frenzy of despair. Come to think of it, the nightmare must have stopped after that night we fought at the beach. It was replaced by another dream. Tears ran down Jin's face. Blue flower petals rolled onto the asphalt street at night, were trampled down, and were tinted with someone's blood. I bent my steps, and the elevator was coming up from the second basement floor. I looked back at the patient room, I wasn't ready to meet Jin and Nan and Jim and not an RM yet. I wasn't ready to meet Jin and RM yet. So he was there, but he couldn't bring himself to go into the room because he probably feels guilty because he started the like argument and stuff that night. Okay, so now we're on RM. I arrived at JK's hospital room in the middle of the night. JK seemed okay. He laughed a lot and talked a lot. I did too. We talked about the gas station, the weather, and whatever else, so we didn't have to talk about what was really important. JK should have asked, but he didn't. He didn't ask why the others fought that night, why we left, and why we didn't come back. I was no different. I didn't tell him why I left our lodging without saying anything, and didn't ask Jin what the problems he had with V were. We just swallowed the questions that we should have blurted out. On our way back, Jin asked me if I was okay. Do you know you haven't said a word yet? I told him. I didn't know and I was sorry. I told him I was fine, and we parted near the gas station. I looked around the night street just before I went to the gas station. It was desolate. The red do not walk signal turned to the green walk signal at the crosswalk. I crossed the street and walked along the railroad, the fourth container from the end. We had had a campfire here before we left for the sea. This was the first time I came here since that day. Okay, so that was definitely in the prologue. Yeah, the campfire they had, where they were all laying down. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or not laying down, but JK was laying on Suga's lap and blew out his lighter. Anyway, dust rose when I opened the container door. I stood there for a while until my eyes got used to the darkness. From what I heard from JK, the others didn't keep in touch with each other. No one updated me about V, but nothing much would have changed. This container was the only place where V could have taken shelter from his dad. I knew it, but didn't drop by. It was exhausting enough to go back and forth between the library and gas station. It was the truth and an excuse at the same time. Deep down inside, I might have been avoiding V. I couldn't afford to confront V. It was too emotionally exhausting. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could see different corners of the container. They were filled with memories of us sharing our lives together. I told Jin that I was okay, but I really wasn't. JK, who got into an accident, couldn't be okay. It couldn't be okay to just drown what happened that night all at once. If V and Jin hadn't gotten into a fight that night, if I had stayed with the others, if anyone had been with JK, then there wouldn't have been an accident. But I said I was okay. I just casually chatted with him as if none of this was my fault, and I tapped him on the shoulder, telling him to quickly recover. I said it like it was a word of blessing or advice or consolation. I hadn't changed a bit. I was always hesitant before asking questions and making choices at a fork in the road. Okay. Next up, we are on Suga, and we are on 2 days later. I woke up from a weird dream. I thought I heard someone knock on the door, but I couldn't hear anything after getting up. I must have heard it in my dream. What time is it? I picked up my phone, but the battery was dead. I had connected my phone charger and got out of bed. My head ached and my shoulders felt stiff. The piece I had worked on until dawn was replaying again and again. I'd been staying up all night for several days, but couldn't find the key to unravel the tangled notes. Maybe it was because of that piece replaying over and over again, but in my dream, I was roaming around in the fog, following a faint whistling sound. This is his first love. Yeah. After a long time, I arrived. Oh, maybe not. Just kidding. This is part of it. That's weird. Okay, sorry. After a long time, I arrived at a garden of an apartment complex. There I found a piano key lying among thick bushes. The half-burned piano key was covered with soil and rotten leaves. I walked into the garden and reached out for the key. Just as I had almost grasped it, the apartment complex, the fog, the whistling sound all disappeared at once. The next minute, I was standing in the middle of this workroom. In the distance, I was sitting in front of the piano with JK. JK said something, and I laughed. When was this? I couldn't recall the exact date, but the scene was imprinted on my memory as clear as day. There were many days I could clearly see the scene. All of a sudden, it became dark outside, and I was wandering through the night street. I was on my way back from the beach. I put my hands into my pockets, and I talked about my work to Hobie, and I felt the piano key with my fingertips. The dream continued in this disjointed manner. Moments overlapped with one another, and fragments of memories piled up in a mess. I heard a banging sound at the entrance just as I turned off the music. Who could that be? I opened the door, but no one was there. I drank a cup of water and lay down on the sofa. The past few weeks had been a hectic merry-go-round. Everything just couldn't go smooth when composing music. It was hard to concentrate at first, and I was also not used to working with a partner. The woman was straightforward and outspoken. She popped in and out of my workroom whenever she felt like it. She never hesitated or beat around the bush when she evaluated my work. She took away my lighter when I tried to smoke and threw me a lollipop instead. She nagged me to sleep and to eat. I couldn't argue with her because her performance and pieces were impressive, because her evaluation was accurate. Okay, so real quick, before I go on, that's obviously from the highlight reels. The girl who was with him while he was on the piano, she took away the lighter, she gave him a lollipop instead. That's the girl from the highlight reels. But I know that a lot of people were saying that the girls actually represented a side of themselves, not necessarily like a completely separate person. So, but other people are like, no, that's definitely a different person. So, like, that's still, I guess, not solidified. Like, there's not a solid answer on exactly who the girl is, if they're an actual girl or if they're actually just a part of themselves that they've kind of separated out for this, for the sake of the storyline. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No, you're good. You're good. Sit there. It's fine. I just need to push it away. So yeah, so it's a theory. No one really knows, but in this case, it kind of does make me wonder, because where would this girl all of a sudden have randomly popped in from?
Right.
Like, where did she randomly come from to where some girl's now just sitting beside him at a piano writing music and taking away his lighter and giving him a lollipop? Like, I'm sorry, who are you? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where did this girl all of a sudden come from? So that's why I think it is very interesting, the theory of the girl maybe are not actually, personally, I think that they are real and just act as someone that is a reflection of themselves. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like where did this random person come from? I don't know. So, yeah. It just makes me wonder if they actually are real. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to continue on.
I can see it.
Yeah, I don't know, though. Okay. That provoked me. I began to spend more and more time at my workroom. I lost my sense of time and became addicted to my work. I would stay up all night once I got down to work. I didn't answer calls or check my messages. All my nerves were on edge, and I didn't want to talk with anyone. I switched off the alerts for every chat app. I would have turned out as skilled and as talented as the woman if I hadn't wasted my time and would I have turned out as skilled and talented as the woman if I hadn't wasted my time and had continued training in music? I wondered. I didn't want to fall behind her. This is really nice. That was what the woman said after listening to the unfinished piece yesterday evening. It was an upgraded version of what I'd previously written. This is really nice. It felt as if I had heard those exact words before. I was trying to call up the memory when she got her guitar out. Then she began to harmonize and play variations of the melody. I sat in front of the piano and played along. Don't forget, we're meeting at the hospital tomorrow. Morning. The woman packed her guitar and stood up. That's okay. Hold on a second. I need to finish reading that, obviously, but she said, I think it has to be a real girl, because she just said, don't forget, we're meeting at the hospital tomorrow morning. Or okay, I still need to read, right? But what if, my mind's going crazy. Okay, so what if, in the highlight reels, yes, JK gets up. He's with his girl on the bench. She pulls out his earbuds. He gets up because he sees that live music is playing. He, with his one crutch, kind of hobbles over to where the live music is playing, and it's the girl, but she has Yugi's lighter on her guitar, and it's hanging there, and you can see he sees it and he looks at it, and he kind of like, right? So I'm wondering if either this is a real girl and the melody sounded familiar because it was something he used to hear Suga play, which caused him to go over and see, what is that and why is that familiar? And then he saw the lighter hanging there and he's like, she knows Suga. You know what I'm saying? Or is it really Suga playing and not her there? But just, you know what I'm saying? But visually you see the girl, but it's actually him? I don't think that's it. I think it's the first thing I said.
I think it's the first thing.
So the girls must be real. But that being said, where the fuck did this random girl just come from?
That's true.
Where did this random girl just come from going into his, dilapidated place and just start fucking playing a piano with him? This is just so random. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, because she just said, don't forget, we're meeting at the hospital tomorrow. And then she's at the hospital playing, but Suga wasn't there. So maybe he decided not to go. But JK hears, I think he hears, because why would all of a sudden he kind of look so puzzled and like want to go up and like watch the girl? You know what I'm saying? I think that maybe he heard the sound, and the sound sounded familiar because she had been playing music with Suga. Okay. And I wonder if that's why he was like, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, possibly. Might be like a little bit of both. Like, they are real, but they also kind of present a side of themselves also to help them kind of like almost like, you know, Jin kept trying to like put people together and like it, you know, to make things happen. Maybe like the girls were put somehow in their path to make things happen as well. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right, let me continue. Okay. Where are we? Don't forget, we're meeting. Don't be reading it now.
We're reading Na's comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Don't forget, we're meeting at the hospital tomorrow morning. The woman packed her guitar and stood up about 2 hours later. I looked up at her with a blank face, and she rolled her eyes. Then I remembered. She'd been giving free solo performances at hospitals and schools. She told me last week to tag along to the next performance. I hadn't answered, but she finalized the plan on her own. She said she'd call early in the morning, and I should make sure to pick up the phone. After she left, I sat in front of the piano again. It wasn't bad, but I felt as if something substantial was missing. I distinctly remembered that I'd almost grasped what it was the last time I worked on this piece. I made changes, but nothing clicked. I stood up from the piano bench, feeling pressure on my chest. Maybe I was putting too much emphasis on something because it didn't come to me. Maybe it'd be better to fine-tune the piece a bit more and stop waiting for that something. I looked out the window. The sun was coming up. Excuse me, sorry. My phone vibrated as it powered up again. She hadn't called yet. I laid down on the sofa. My phone rang after a few minutes. The name Jimin appeared on the screen. That instantly reminded me of a scene from my dream last night. A house was aflame, and someone asked me, "Is there anyone inside?" I answered, "No, there's no one inside." The scene shifted, and I was sitting in my mom's unlit room. My mom was saying, "If I hadn't had you, if you hadn't been born." Jesus Christ. I don't know how I got from my workroom to the hospital. I was running up the stairs like crazy when I snapped out of it. The hallway was strangely long and dark. People in patient uniforms slid by. My heart kept throbbing. Their faces were like pale sheets and expressionless. They seemed dead. I could hear my heavy breathing in my head. I could see JK in his patient uniform lying on the bed through the cracked door. He must be asleep, but he seemed as if he were dead. He almost died. The doctor said it was a miracle he was alive. It was that night that we came back from the beach. Jimin's voice was still ringing in my ears. I turned my head. I couldn't look at him anymore. A multitude of images flashed before my eyes like a panorama. The flame that made a crackling sound in a drum at a construction site. My mom's room that had always been unlit. The sound of the piano that came from the fire. JK's back as he clumsily played the piano at the music shop. JK lying unconscious on the empty street, and the pain and fear he must have gone through as he lost consciousness. She said, "It's all because of you." She said, "If you hadn't been born." Mom's voice. Or was it mine? Or was it someone else's? I'd been tormented my whole life because of those words. I wanted to believe that they weren't true, but JK was lying there. He was lying in a hospital where patients roamed around like the living dead. If I had just ignored him and left the music shop, if I had just died in the flames, would none of this have happened? At that moment, the melodies of the woman's guitar penetrated my mind. The guitar sound overlapped the crackling sound of the blazing fire, the sound of the piano, and countless other sounds. I covered my head and ears with both arms, but the sound of the guitar only grew louder. I turned and began to escape down the hallway. I bumped into passers-by, but I didn't have time to turn around and apologize. They shouted curses at me. I didn't look back. I had to run away from that voice and the hallucination. My head ached. I'd lost all my confidence. I ran down the hallway, faltering and staggering, and got out of the hospital. Interesting. Okay, JK, same day. A noise from outside the room roused me from my sleep. I was having a strange dream, but couldn't quite remember the details. The night of the traffic accident replayed like a blurry CCTV screen in black and white. I could feel my heartbeat slow down and then quicken explosively. All of a sudden, pain surged, and someone was whispering faintly. The next minute, I woke up like writhing. I can't freaking ever say that word properly either. My entire body was soaked with sweat. The sunlight came through the window and right onto my face. I stepped into the hallway and was met by the usual scene. It was my first time to use the crutches. I still needed to get used to them, but they were so much easier than a wheelchair. I went outside through the entrance. It was breezy. My sweat cooled quickly, and it felt chilly on the back of my neck. It wasn't as warm as I thought inside my patient room. As I sat down on a bench and opened my sketchbook, the doctor in charge came over to me. He said it was a miracle that I had recovered, and he hadn't thought it'd be possible. He tapped me on my shoulder, saying I was living proof of a miracle. You should be good for the rest of your life. I turned my head and saw a girl standing there who I'd met yesterday in the hallway. The girl said it was so amazing to find a miracle right next to her and asked me how I felt. I responded that I was just really healthy. I lowered my eyes again to the sketchbook. Before I knew it, I was drawing what I had seen in my dream. My memories were like a blurred CCTV screen. It was hard to concentrate on my drawings or the memories because the girl kept asking me questions. After a while, I looked up. A familiar song was playing. Someone was giving a performance in the distance. I definitely knew this song. Suga played this in his workroom. I went over to the stage on my crutches. A lighter marked YK was hanging on the guitar. Why do I have a hair in my mouth? Fucking taco every time, man. I knew it. I was right. Okay, so Jimin. This is July 3rd, so we are on like 3 weeks later.
Okay.
Yeah, so like 3 weeks in the future.
Okay.
Why do you do that?
Because it's late and I'm full and now
Did you say it's late?
It's almost 10
It's
o'clock.
9:47.
Okay, first of all, for normal people, that's late.
That's not late.
For people that stay up
9:47.
until 4 a.m., that's not late.
First of all, I haven't stayed up till 4 a.m. for a while. First of all.
That's a surprise.
I'm just saying. I mean, like one day last week. That's not that bad. I'm just saying. So, now we're on Jimin, July 3rd, okay? Hobie had been in a bad mood since he visited JK. If anyone could truly tie the seven of us together as we, Hobie could. He embraced and protected us like a shelter, but he wasn't always as bright and cheerful on the inside as he tried to appear in front of us. It was closer to a sense of responsibility. He instinctively sensed the wounds and pain of those around him, and couldn't bear them as well. This is why he pretended to be livelier than he actually was by nature. Even today, Hobie just sat in the corner of the practice room for a long time and left without saying a word. I joined Just Dance, and I began to learn how to dance right after I returned from the sea. Hobie gave me the opportunity. I was awkward at meeting new people as I'd spent too much time in the hospital. He brought a new dance partner, too. She was a friend he'd met at the orphanage. She was the only person who could make him laugh when he was in that mood. When she murmured something while looking at his phone together, he chuckled. You laughed. She made fun of him. Hobie turned his head away, telling her to stop it, and he chuckled again. Oh, because she was like, he was in a bad mood, so she showed him something and he laughed. She's like, you laughed. Okay, I get it. The practice room began. The practice room became silent in a flash after I turned off the music. I just lay there on the floor. I liked dancing when I was little. I danced a lot and was often praised for it. But the new patient room wasn't a good place for dancing. When I attended school in between hospital stays, I just sank my head on my chest to avoid the eyes of my classmates. After a while, my body felt so stiff. I couldn't perform the motions that Hobie did so easily. There was nothing to do but keep practicing, even after everyone had left. I replayed the video of the dance moves I had learned earlier on my phone. Hobie's moves were fluid but accurate in the video. I knew that they were a product of years of practice and that it would take a long time for a novice like me to reach that level. It was wishful thinking. I could only keep sighing out loud. I went to my parents' house that day. That day I left the beach alone. As I looked up at the brightly lit windows, I couldn't help but think, has this place ever been our house? I pressed the bell at the front gate, and it took a while for it to open. I took the elevator and got off at the 17th floor. Although the door was open, no one came out to greet me. My parents were sitting on the sofa in the living room, watching a black and white movie on TV. I don't want to go back to the hospital, I blurted out after some hesitation. Don't worry, I won't do anything rash, but I'm not going back there. Where have you been? Mom asked. With my friends. Friends? Wash up and go to bed. We'll take some time to think about what to do with you, Dad cut in. I bowed and went to my room down the hallway. As soon as the door closed behind my back, I collapsed. We'll take some time to think about what to do with you. Dad's voice rang in my head. I tried to brace myself, but it wasn't easy. I barely slept that night. Instead, I made 2 resolutions. I'll discover what I'd like to commit to myself, and I'll prove that I'm good at it. I picked up myself and stood in front of the mirror. I could imitate the turns pretty well, but my feet kept getting twisted up. I kept making mistakes. I was supposed to do steps with my new dance partner the next day, but I wanted to impress her. I wanted to be recognized as an equal instead of hearing, not bad. Next day, Jimin still. When I came back to myself, I was rubbing at my arms so hard that my skin peeled off. My hands trembled, and I could hear the sound of my heavy breathing. A thin stream of blood ran down my arm. By the reflection in the mirror, I could see that my eyes were bloodshot. Fragments of what just happened raced through my mind. I had lost concentration while dancing with my partner. My steps got tangled, I crashed into her, fell down, and skinned my arm. The blood reminded me of the grass flower arboretum. I felt suffocated. I couldn't remember how I got up. I ran out of the practice room, and I made it to the restroom. I scrubbed and washed the scrape like crazy, becoming more and more frightened at seeing the blood suck down the drain. I thought I'd overcome this. I thought I was okay. But I wasn't. I had to flee. I had to wash it off. I had to look the other way. Then I suddenly realized my partner also fell. I quickly rushed back into the practice room, but there was no one there. Her overcoat and Hobie's bag were scattered on the floor. I ran outside. It was raining hard, and I could see Hobie with my dancing partner on his back, running with all of his might in the far distance. She seemed to be unconscious. Her limp arms swayed in every direction. I chased after him with an umbrella in my hand, but came to a stop. I tried to recall the moment she fell, but I couldn't. When I saw the blood, everything around me vanished. I wouldn't be of any help if I caught up with him. I'd hurt her by pushing her to the ground, but I didn't even stop to see if she was okay because I was shaking like jelly at my own blood. I turned around. Every time I took a step, rain splattered onto my sneakers. The headlights of cars wished by me. It had rained on that picnic day a long, long time ago, just like today. On that day, I had run away from the grass flower arboretum. My body was covered with mud that looked like blood, and I hadn't grown up one bit from that little 8-year-old kid. What the hell happened to him there? Obviously, this is all highlight reel. Like, all of this is highlight reel, obviously. But man, what the hell happened to Jimin? Okay, so do you think Jimin witnessed something, or do you think something happened to him?
I'm going back and forth between it.
I know, like, me too. Like, I'm like, because obviously he's freaking out at the sight of blood, but like, and like, obviously, like, in like, I Need You and stuff, like, he's always like, he's in the bathtub. It's like he's trying to like wash himself clean in a way. Like, he, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's why, like, the more that I hear via the story, I'm just like, I'm going back and forth between like different things in my head.
Like, and I know that we haven't gotten to the part yet because I personally still don't know, and I did this a year ago, and I still don't know what happened. I think it's still a mystery, honestly, but it's I just, Jesus Christ, I fucking hope something didn't happen to him as an 8-year-old boy, like physically to him, and that's why he's always trying to
purify himself,
make himself clean because he feels dirty. That I cannot handle that if that's part of the storyline. Jesus Christ. Or he just witnessed something, and maybe, like, I mean, I don't know, like, maybe he witnessed somebody getting murdered or something,
right,
and
then he ran away from it.
Yeah. And that's why he can't handle the sight of blood. I don't know.
I'm torn between a few different things. I don't know enough.
Yeah. Okay. I really hope it's just that he saw something and nothing actually happened to him. Jeez, I really hope that. Okay. So we are on same day. Just kidding. We're 3 days later, and it's Hobie 3 days later. My ankle didn't heal well. I had a small accident a few days ago. Now I can say that it was small, but it was serious at the time. Jimin and that girl ran into each other while practicing a dance move, and they both fell hard. I carried the girl on my back and ran to the hospital. It wasn't far, but it was raining, and she was unconscious. While she got treated, I paced up and down the hallway. It was late at night, but the hallway in front of the emergency room was full of people drinking coffee from the vending machine or looking at their phones. Rain and sweat dripped from my hair. I shook my hair with one hand, sitting down on a bench in one corner. I dropped her bag by mistake. Coins rolled around the floor, and ballpoint pens and handkerchiefs were scattered all over. There was also a plane ticket. I knew that she had applied for an audition in an international dance team. The ticket must have meant that she won the spot. At that moment, the doctor called me up. I put the ticket back in her bag and walked towards the doctor. He said that the girl had hit her head and had a concussion and that I didn't need to worry too much. It was still raining outside. I stood by the entrance with her. Hobie, the girl, called me. She seemed as if she had something to say. Wait here. I'll go buy an umbrella. I ran out into the pouring rain. So she said Hobie, and instead of letting her talk, he said, wait here, I'll go buy an umbrella, and he went to go buy an umbrella. The convenience store came into view, and I didn't want to hear what she was going to say. Oh, because she was probably telling him that she's leaving to go on the plane.
His friend.
Yeah. So that's why he's like, I'll go buy an umbrella, because he doesn't want to hear her say that she's leaving. That's why the plane ticket was there. I didn't want to hear what she was going to say. I wasn't sure if I could congratulate her. Jimin was anxiously waiting for me back in the practice room. I told him that the girl was okay, but Jimin looked dejected and bent his head low. The next morning, my ankle was swollen. I tripped slightly the night before while carrying her on my back. It was raining and I was running. I didn't even fall. My foot just slipped a little. I put on pain relief patch and I tried to walk more carefully. I thought it would be okay. It didn't swell up that much at first, but it got worse and worse. I had to stay on my feet all day at the burger joint and I couldn't skip dance practice. So now his ankle's injured.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's my question. When do we start over again? Because this is continuing not great. Like, I mean, everyone's still alive, obviously. That's better than all the other times that Jin had to do stuff.
It's one thing.
But, Jesus, it's just one thing after another. And it's like, okay, but when can we start over again so all this crap isn't continuing to happen? I feel like, yeah, my hair thing's turned. What the fuck? Jesus, whatever. Okay, next. Okay, we're on V, and it is 3 days later again. It's July 10th. I darted down this... Oh, this is when he is doing graffiti and he ran away with the girl, isn't it?
Probably.
If we're continuing on the highlight reel, of course. I darted down the sloping roads through my narrow back alleys. I'd lived in this neighborhood for about 20 years. I knew every nook and cranny. Every corner brought back stories and memories, but it wasn't time for the reminiscing. The police were chasing me. I couldn't afford to get lost in memories. But as I turned one corner after another, I jumped one fence after another, it felt as if time was winding backwards. I spray painted graffiti at the bus stop for the first time in a long time. I picked up the spray cans again because of one girl. I ran into her while she was trying to steal food from a convenience store a few days ago. Mm-hmm. She couldn't bring herself to look down at her empty hands. She was obviously scared of her empty hands. I didn't want to admit that I knew exactly how she felt. You have to look squarely into your own empty hands. No one can do it for you. But I couldn't turn my head away from her. I recognized the look on her face. The look when you feel like you don't belong anywhere in the world. When you're afraid, you are responsible for everything that went wrong in your life. When you are lonely and don't know where to go or stay. I saw that girl from time to time after that. We didn't do anything special together. We just sat on the street or walked along the railroad. Then we did some graffiti together. She seemed to feel awkward holding a spray can for the first time, but did her best to follow what I did. Finally, we came to the bus stop. RM got off at this bus stop. The police also frequently showed up here. I once got caught spraying graffiti here. The girl tried to read my face as I stood up with the spray can in my hand. Pausing. Highlight reels. RM was on the bus with the girl, and instead of waking her up when she fell asleep, he just left the hair tie on top of her stuff. He got off at the stop. Do you remember what was written at this bus stop?
The thing that I can't pronounce.
No.
No.
That's a breakfast now.
I don't even remember.
At that bus stop,
it's been so long.
It said "I'm fine," and it was the "I'm fine" that when you turn it upside down actually says "Save me."
That.
Yeah, and so he said that he spray painted at that bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost, and he knew RM got off at that bus stop. So it's almost as if he spray painted "I'm fine," trying to convince himself, but he's really asking for help, and he needs that help from RM. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just put the 2 and 2 together with that because I remember seeing the "I'm fine" in the highlight reel. Okay. I hadn't been in touch with RM since I saw him at the hospital, but I did pass his container by the railroad one night several days ago. I was out on the street to get away from Dad and his drunken temper. I just blindly ran out, wandered around aimlessly, and saw the light at the container. Someone was in there. It must have been RM. I wanted to go in, but I couldn't. I got closer and could hear a faint melody and snoring sound. I sat on the ground in front of the container and looked up at the sky. It was literally pitch black without any hint of stars. The police were gaining on me fast. I was hiding in an alley with a dead end. There was no way out. It was meant to be. Even if I stopped reminiscing and concentrated on getting away, I'd get caught anyway. It was the expected outcome. No problem could be solved with empty fists. I walked out of the alley and put both of my arms up. I surrendered. 3 days later. It keeps being 3 days later. What is that about? RM. Oh, I have to crack my neck. Sorry. Oh, it didn't crack. Okay, well, at least I stretched it. Oh, it felt better. I thought it was going to crack. I felt like it needed to crack. Nope, it doesn't want to crack. Okay. Sorry, guys. All right. All right, bye, Amanda. Okay. Let me get a sip of water. After it's starting to feel parched. Okay. We're on RM 3 days later. I packed my bag and got out of the library. It had been over a month since I started working night shifts at the gas station, and I went to the library during the day. I was beat after coming home from working all night, but I didn't just sit around after the alarm went off. It's not that I had accomplished anything over the past month. I just stared out the window and skimmed through magazines in a daze. It wasn't like I wasn't feeling impatient. I knew I had to go at my own pace, but it wasn't as easy as I thought. What were all these people doing here in the library? Would I be able to catch up with them? But I didn't know where to start or what to hold on to. I leaned my head against the window of the bus. From the library to the gas station every day, the tediously familiar landscape slid by outside the window. Would I ever be able to escape from this routine? It seemed impossible for me to even wish for a better tomorrow. A woman sitting in the front of the bus came into view. Her shoulders heaved as if she were sighing. She was the woman who handed out flyers on the pedestrian overpass. I also recognized her from the library. We'd studied at the same library, had gone home on the same bus for the past month. I had never struck up a conversation with her, but we watched the same landscape, went through the same experiences, and sighed in the same way. I saw how she dozed off in one corner of the library, and how her nose bled in front of the coffee vending machine. I wasn't looking for her, but she caught my eye from time to time. I still had the hairband in my pocket, which I bought from a street vendor without thinking after I saw her hair tied with the yellow rubber band. The bus was approaching her stop. Someone pushed the stop button and several passengers stood up, but the woman didn't. She must have fallen asleep. Should I wake her up? I hesitated for a moment. The bus finally came to a stop, but she showed no sign of moving. Passengers got off and the door slid closed and the bus drove on. The bus reached my stop and the woman still hadn't woken up. I hesitated once again as I got out through the back door. No one would pay attention to her. She'd missed her stop already and wouldn't wake up until a few more stops passed. That would probably add even more fatigue to her life. The bus departed as soon as I got off, and I didn't look back. I had placed the hairband on the woman's bag, and that was it. Several days ago, I had been here and seen some graffiti painted on the wall in front of the bus stop. I'd automatically looked around, but V had been nowhere in sight. I'd assumed he'd left in a hurry because the spray cans were rolling around on the ground. I stared at the graffiti painted all over the wall for a while. So I was right. Okay. Can I just say that I don't remember reading, like, any of this part of the book? And I'm wondering if I read all the notes from last time, if that's the case. Because I honestly, like, I don't remember reading, like, any of this stuff.
You could have missed it last time.
I'm wondering if maybe I missed that last time.
There's a chance.
Yeah, I don't know. Why would you do that? Okay.
My bad, bro.
We are the next day, Jin. I sat on a bench at a tent bar next to RM. It was after midnight, but the tent bar was filled with guests who had come close to their days with bitter drinks. The call came in the afternoon. RM had asked me to meet him after his shift at the gas station, and he hadn't said anything so far. He just continued to drain glass after glass. I asked him if anything was wrong, and he just smiled and shook his head. It's just that my life hasn't changed a bit since I was born. It doesn't get better or worse. RM said that his energy had run dry. They had pretended to be a friend when he couldn't do anything for us. That was why he couldn't meet V or visit JK again. That he was making excuses even at this moment, and he was nothing. Our high school years came to mind after we had had quite a few drinks. That incident V disclosed on the beach. Why did RM defend me then? Why did you do it then? Instead of answering my question, RM asked another. Why did I do what then? My mom's death, my childhood at my maternal grandmother's in LA, Dad's cold expression when I came back to Korea. I'd never felt the warmth of a family. Maybe I was feeling tipsy, or it was the night air, but I confided all my secrets that I never revealed before. Now I know everything about you, but aren't the others also waiting for you to share your story? Waiting for you to give them a clue about what happened then? RM said after listening to my confession. I told him goodbye and headed home. I strolled along the street for some time, staggering a bit. The night breeze was refreshing, and the moon in the sky was bright. I stopped in front of some graffiti painted on the bus stop. If I confessed everything, would RM believe me? If someone confessed to me what I was going to say, would I be able to believe that person? A few days ago, I drove past a convenience store where V was working. Through the car window, I could see him smiling. He was talking to a customer and laughing out loud. That familiar laughter that made his mouth turn into a square shape. What is there to talk and laugh so loudly about with a customer? Well, V had always been like that. He shook with laughter at jokes no one found funny and shed tears at things no one found sad. How should I reconcile with V? The future appeared bleak. That's Jin. That's Jin saying that. So he saved, it seems, he's figured out how to save all his friends. But now they're continuing on in this manner. Mm-hmm. And it's just still not great. It's like, what do we do? Mm-hmm. That thing is so cute. It is. It's so cute. It's so cute. Our boys. Yes. Okay. We are on Hobie, and this is 2 days later. Hobie. I turned the pages of the sketchbook one by one. We were smiling together in the classroom turned storage room, in the tunnel, and against the backdrop of the sea. JK was lying alone on an asphalt road. Blood was streaming down the road. The large moon hung high in the night sky. I wonder if turn the page of the sketchbook. Oh, so this is him drawing stuff, I'm assuming. Yeah. I think. Oh, this is Hobie. Okay, this is Hobie. Okay, sorry. I was thinking I was on Suga for some reason. This is Hobie. Are you hurt? I looked back and saw JK coming into his patient room. I had danced with my ankle wrapped in a pressure bandage, and now a plaster cast was around the ankle. Mm-hmm. I seemed to be in better shape than you. I deliberately showed a dramatic reaction to his words and said that his health was unbeatable. JK said he'd undergo a thorough checkup next week and be able to go home after that if there's no problems. I decided that we should throw him a party. We had a party at Arm's Container on the day that Jimin escaped from the hospital with hamburgers and cola and cake that Jin had brought. We fought over who got to wear the only party hat until it was crushed. We smeared that expensive cake all over each other's faces. RM complained. Oh, that was in Spring Day.
They had the bonfire.
That was in. Do you remember in Spring Day?
Oh, yeah,
they threw the cake and yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm like, every time I read something, I'm like, oh, that was from this. Oh, that was from that. Interesting. So that's the party. Wait, is that Euphoria or Spring Day? I thought that was in Spring Day. No, it was in Spring Day because I remember it being in the Spring Day Explained, and they were like, although this looks like a happy scene, it's actually not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. I think so. Yeah. Oh, I think some people might have gone back to watch, so some comments are coming in from earlier. It's Spring Day. Okay. Okay, what were you going to say? It looked like you were about to say something. No?
I don't know.
She's the worst. Okay. Okay.
I think it's because we ate.
I think it's because we ate something like right before we started, so we're both like yawning like crazy. Okay.
Don't read ahead. Read ahead.
I'm not. I'm trying to figure out where I left off. We fought over who got to wear the only party hat until it was crushed. We smeared the expensive cake all over each other's faces. Arm complained that he'd have to clean up the mess all by himself, but it was fun. The 7 of us finally got together for the first time after we left high school. We laughed at every word and every moment. Every minute together was exhilarating and exciting, even though we didn't say or do much. I wanted to make a day like this, a day we met and laughed together again. Hey, that night, JK started to say as we got off the elevator and headed to the front door of the hospital. His gaze was fixed on something outside. He didn't seem to actually be looking at anything. He was just blinking his eyes as if trying to dig up an old memory. Does Jin know about that? Does Jin talk about that night? I mean, has he said that he saw me or...
What did I just say about reading ahead?
No, I didn't read ahead. I reread what I just read. Hold on. Hold on.
Stop hitting me with things I didn't.
Do you remember?
You didn't finish your sentence.
No, but listen, I'm not going to finish my sentence. He just said that night. Did Jin mention he saw me? Do you remember in I Need You, we think he got hit, right? But remember when we saw this scene a second time in a different video at the very end? He turned and he smiled at the car and he just said, did Jin mention that he saw me? Was Jin driving the car? Did Jin hit JK? Don't read the thing. Don't spoil anything.
Ooh.
Seriously. Because I had always said it. He turned. Why is he smiling? It's like he recognizes the person. And if you saw, there's only 6 people in that scene, and one of them wasn't there. Don't read. I don't know what they're saying. Don't read. But seriously, I think that might be what it is.
That might be what it is. I have to pee.
Oh my God, go pee.
I've had so much to drink.
I've been drinking a lot too. I have like not much of that left. Really? I've drank some of this because the ice melted. It's all watery now. Yeah, bitch. You can throw mine away too because it's all melted.
I'm gonna pee first and then I'll throw it away.
Oh, I have those too if you feel like throwing those away too. I think I'm right. Oh, yes. I'll mention that to her, Mackenzie. I'll mention that to her. You're right. Yes, Miss Alice, you're right. Yes. That was so ugly. Why did I do that? Yas. You're right. The highlight reel, he like flinched like that. I remember. Yeah, I don't know if the party in the container from Run was it, because I don't remember them having like a birthday cake and like throwing birthday cake on each other, wearing a birthday hat. But I remember that happening in Spring Day. Even though Spring Day is technically not BU though, but like I remember I have always linked certain scenes in Spring Day to BU. But yeah. Flinched. Yeah. That's what someone else just said. Yeah. Yeah, it could have been both because remember, they've repeated this multiple times. Just like I think that prologue, when he says, I need to see my friends, and you see him laying on the mattress in the pool area, and RM and everybody come up and they wake him up and they pick him up and to stand up in prologue. That exact scene happens in Euphoria. But they're on the rooftop and he's laying on a mattress and they all come and then RM, taps him and pulls him up. And I think those are the exact same moments, but just relived a different time because Jin has to reset everything and start over again. So I feel that that's just the same thing, just a different time that it occurred. So I think you might be right. So I think in Run, maybe that's one of the times that they had a party with, for that, and then maybe in Spring Day that was another time that they had the party. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's like it's all the same thing but just in different times that it had happened. This time was that time that it happened. This one is that time that it happened. Do you know what I'm saying? So I bet you, because we keep seeing 2 different scenarios of the same thing. We saw 2 different scenarios of Taehyung laying on the mattress. And by the way, she's not in here yet. Does anyone remember the way V is laying in the On music video on the ground is exactly the way he was laying on that mattress both times before RM woke him up. That's how he's laying in the On music video. Just interesting there. But I think she's coming back now, and I don't want to talk about the On music video yet. But yeah, she's seen it. Don't get me wrong. She's seen the music video. What? Ew, what? You wacko? Why are you looking at me like that? She's like,
I heard you talking in here.
yeah, and what?
So I came back.
This bitch. Anyway. Yeah, seriously. Okay, are you what are you doing? She's literally just standing here. You're the one who's making this thing drag on. Stop stalling. I'm just gonna freaking urethra? What? What is it called? What am I trying to say? Where she doesn't have to go to pee because she just peed. Your frick, what is it called? Thingy to just shove in your thing so that she can pee where she's at. What the fuck is it called? Jesus Christ. I was gonna say urethra, but that's like your pee tube. I'm so technical. Jesus Christ. Catheter! That's what. Oh, yeah. She's like, mm-hmm.
I know what it
as
was.
if she knew, but she
trying to
wasn't saying
figure out
anything.
What the hell? Why you were saying urethra?
What?
Or
Urethra?
Whatever the fuck you were saying.
Anitra, you nasty. No, that's what you have to. You have to shove the catheter in your urethra.
Why are you stalling? Continue.
Oh, bitch! I'm gonna have to hurt her before this is over.
Trash away.
You threw your own trash away, and I said you might as well take mine while you're at it.
Sure not.
This bitch. We're now on Jin, and this is the 24th of July, so this is about 8 days later. Urethra Franklin. What? No, that's urethra. Aretha. Anyway, now you got me confused. Shh. We're reading again. Don't look at the chat. Okay, let's do this. Jin, July 24th. I followed Dad into the brightly lit conference room. I sat on a chair at the entrance and looked around. I wasn't sure why I had been summoned there. Dad sat in the center and was surrounded by familiar faces. I looked at the clock. The discharge party for JK must have started. I was thinking of calling the others when Dad opened his mouth and the entire room became still. The atmosphere was heavy, but it didn't feel ominous. Rather, the room was buzzing with excitement and expectations. The lights went out and the title of the conference appeared on the screen. Master Plan for the Redevelopment of Downtown Seongju. Real quick before I continue. To add to my, I think it was Jin that hit JK.
It's so warm.
Your arm is so cold. To add to my, I think that it was Jin that hit JK theory. Do you remember in the highlight reels when he was driving to see the girl and all of a sudden it was really weird and he was driving and he kind of turned and I'm like, what was that?
It's like he hit him.
It was like he was having a flashback of him hitting him.
Could be possible.
Okay. Dad had called me all of a sudden. To be exact, it was his secretary who called me. I'd said I had an appointment, but I didn't think that would work. Dad asked me in the car on our way here if I was still hanging out with those so-called friends of mine. I didn't answer. He wasn't asking a question. He was just belittling them, reproaching me for getting along with them, and ordering me to cut ties with them. He didn't even look at me. Don't waste your time on nothing. I'm telling you this out of experience. Besides, you'll have to help out a lot here. Try to learn as much as you can. Then you'll soon grow into an adult worth your salt. Fucking adults. You good? Mm-hmm. Okay. Jimin, same day. The inside of the container was completely decorated. The hamburgers, fries, and drinks Hobie brought were set on the table, and Christmassy ornaments were dangling on the walls. JK was sitting in the center. Only 3 of the 7 cups were filled. Hobie had left for his part-time shift after laying out the food, and RM was coming late after his part-time shift was over. No one could get a hold of Suga, and Jin said he'd come but hadn't shown up yet. V sat speechless. Is he still uncomfortable in RM's container? I'd almost dragged him here, but it was impossible to liven up the mood. This is how we were most of the time after returning from the sea. No one reached out to the others first, and no one was aware of how the others were doing. Maybe it was inevitable. We were no longer those students who ditched school to hang out together. We all had our own set of problems and obligations now. We couldn't afford to disregard them just because we wanted to be together. As for me, I had to work hard to stay out of the hospital and decide whether I'd go back to school. I had to prove to my parents, as well as myself, that I was okay. I had to make sure that I wasn't a burden for anyone. After some time, JK hesitantly stood up. I held on to him, saying he should stay a bit longer and see RM. JK just laughed, saying he'd take a rain check. I couldn't keep him there. We cleared the table and left the container. We turned on our phones' flashlight function. It was 10:30. We parted in front of the container. As I crossed the railroad. As I crossed the railroad and waited for the bus to come, I could see JK and V walking away in the distance with their flashlights on. V, same day. I darted up the stairs, taking 3 and 4 at a time. Liquor bottles were rolling around here and there, and cups and plates were scattered across the floor. Dad had fallen onto the ground in one corner with his head bowed. My sister said it was not what I thought, even before I opened my mouth. Dad's voice was a bit loud, and someone must have called the police, thinking he was beating us. Then the police officers came into view. Women from our neighborhood who were gathered in front of our door clicked their tongues and walked away. My sister kept apologizing and bowing to the officers. Nothing was broken and no one got hurt. I didn't need to be ashamed of this situation. Dad's drinking habit had long been the gossip of the neighborhood, but I looked the other way. Dad seemed to have fallen asleep. His face was sunburned and covered with the bushy beard as he was working as a day laborer at a construction site. He had more gray hair than before. I could see the watery inside of his mouth and his tongue. I used to kill Dad in my dreams. Once I almost stabbed him in reality. Maybe it started from that point. I began to sympathize with him. I hated myself for sympathizing with him. Could that person be called a parent? He was not qualified to be one. Someone tapped me on my shoulder, and I looked back to find a familiar face. He was a police officer who had been dispatched to my house a few times. I had also seen him at the police station several times when I was called in for graffiti. I just bent my head low. It was a gesture to say I'm sorry for making them rush here for nothing, but I was also uncertain what look to wear on my face. Your neighbors must be worried about you two a lot. The lady who reported this incident didn't sound annoyed at all and asked us repeatedly to come quickly before someone got hurt. Make sure to find her and thank her later. I asked him as if that lady's voice was low and husky. He couldn't recall exactly, but it could have been. My sister, who was talking with another police officer, turned her head to look at me. Do you keep in touch with Mom? I asked her after everyone left. She was cleaning up the bottles and plates scattered on the floor, and I was sitting against a wall. Dad was still asleep in that uncomfortable position. The sun had already set, and the long window above Dad's head was pitch dark. My sister picked herself up and sat at the dinner table. She didn't say a word, but her silence more than answered my question. I asked her for Mom's address and telephone number. I don't know her number. I just know that she lives in a rented apartment in Bukgu, Munhyun. Taehyung, why do you want to contact her? She asked. To ask her what she had been thinking, why she left, and why she appeared again. My sister sat down next to me. V, Mom misses you. I snorted and stood up. She was clearly, there's no way I've read this because I thought his mom had passed away when he was little. Like, there's no way I've read this before. None of this sounds familiar to me. So I don't think I've seen this part of, everything before. All of this seems new to me. I definitely thought his mom had passed away. I didn't know that she was still, had just, left them. Interesting. Okay. I snorted and stood up. She was clearly unaware of how mad I was. I told her I was going to ask Mom those questions, but I wasn't particularly curious about her answers. How would it help me even if I knew why she had left? I just wanted to release my smoldering resentment. Why did she come here? She's the one who abandoned us. Now she wants to play the mom figure.
Why are people saying Anitra? You miss JK's part. JK's part at the end.
What? I don't know what you're referring to. I didn't finish reading JK's part. Oh. Okay. Sorry. All right, I got you. Sorry. Okay. My bad, y'all. I need you. I hadn't looked up at the freaking... I'm so sorry. After Caitlin's pee break, I thought I had already finished. But apparently you peed in the middle of a chapter.
My bad, bro.
Bitch. Okay. Oh my god, you know what that just reminded me of? Do you know what that reminded me of? I just did this and we went at the same time. Do you know what it reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of Wow Quan and Take Me Higher. When they're like at the do you know what I'm talking about? Oh my god, that's totally what it reminded me of. Oh, I love that part. They're so cute.
They are adorable.
Okay, sorry. That totally just reminded me of Wow Quan. I love them. See? Oh my god, yeah, see? She agrees. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna continue now. Let me go back and finish reading that part. Okay, so I'm going to just start from the beginning of that paragraph. Hey, that night, JK started to say as we got off the elevator and headed for the front door of the hospital. His gaze was fixed on something outside. He didn't seem to actually be looking at anything. He was just blinking his eyes as if trying to dig up an old memory. Does Jin know about that night? I mean, has he said that he saw me? Or... JK stopped talking. Jin? Saw you? Where? I asked, but he didn't open his mouth again. And by the way, this was... This is Hobie. Okay. You're a good person, right? JK asked me before we parted. Stop talking nonsense. I tapped him on his shoulder playfully and waved goodbye. I quickly bent my steps. Am I a good person? Growing up, I had been told that I was a bright and cheerful kid. I used to be told that I was sensitive and impressionable. Did that mean I was a good person? I had never given it a thought before. I looked back and saw him standing at the entrance and looking up at the cloudy sky. Okay. Sorry about that.
Got you.
Sorry I missed that. Okay, so why did she come here? Now we're back on V, talking to his sister. Why did she come here? She's the one who abandoned us, and now she wants to play the mom figure. I started walking north toward the direction of Manhyan. I don't know. I wanted to walk faster than my throbbing heart. That was the only way for me to be able to breathe. It was already past the midnight. It literally says the midnight. It was already past the midnight. Buses had stopped running, and I had no money for a taxi. Walking was my only option. In order to get there, I had to cross the railroad and a bridge and pass through downtown. I might be able to get there before sunrise. I sensed someone's footsteps behind me when I was crossing the railroad. JK was following me. I'd completely forgotten that JK was with me when I ran into my house at the side of the patrol car out in front. Go away, I shouted at JK and walked on without looking back. He must have seen it all. The police, the neighbors clicking their tongues, the liquor bottles rolling around, Dad snoring, and my sister with her head bent low. JK must have seen it all. I've never told anyone about my dad's violence. Never. I'd never told the others that Mom ran away. It wasn't because of my pride. Well, maybe it was. It just didn't seem fair that I should have to explain my miserable situation in life by myself. I quickened my pace. I had finally gotten out of the residential area and climbed up the stairs of a pedestrian overpass over the railroad when I heard footsteps behind me. I took a glance and saw JK. I was going to scream while he was still following me, but changed my mind. It was none of my business. I stepped onto the bridge after coming down from the railroad. JK was still following me from far behind. I stopped in the middle of the bridge and looked down at the river. In the dead of the night, roads and buildings were dimly illuminated by the street lamps, not by the river. The jet-black river ran ferociously under my feet with a roaring sound. It felt more threatening because it wasn't discernible in the dark. JK also stopped behind me and looked down at the river. There were only two of us on the bridge, no pedestrians and no cars. Our t-shirts were wet with perspiration and flapped in the wind. Do you know we've been walking for the past hour? I waved at JK and he came closer. We began to walk side by side. Can I ask where we're going? I told him I was going to my mom's. I had something to tell her. JK nodded. My pace was getting slower. I suddenly wondered if I was really going to my mom's. I didn't exactly know where she was living. I didn't know her number or her address. I had no plan after arriving at the apartment complex. My rage had subsided in just 1 hour and was replaced with hunger and pain. I imagined what our encounter would be like. In fact, I had already imagined it countless times. It was the next step that was unclear. After asking my mom questions, what would she say? Would she answer them all? If so, or if not, how should I react? Maybe it was better for all of us if I didn't meet her. That was my conclusion, but I kept imagining the moment and was now strolling the night street like this without any plan to see Mom. Is your leg okay? Come to think of it, JK just got his cast off and I had made him walk for hours. The doctor said I should walk a lot as rehabilitation. JK showed me a smile and outpaced me as if he was trying to prove it. I couldn't bring myself to say that we should stop here. I decided to trudge on. Aren't you hungry? As I loosened up, all my senses came back, clamoring. As I loosened up, all my senses came clamoring back. I'm regretting that I didn't finish off the cake and that hamburger. I giggled at JK's words. Human beings are so absurdly strong, or so absurdly weak. And we are the proof, feeling starved, complaining that our legs hurt, and laughing together even in this situation. The lights grew brighter and more boisterous, and a busy street soon appeared in front of us. It was far into the night, but the brightly lit street was crowded with people and cars passing by. It was 3:30 in the morning. We sat at an outdoor table outside a convenience store. JK said he was thirsty as we were about halfway through our instant cup noodles. I went into the store to buy drinks, and when I came back, someone was standing in front of JK. He had his back turned to me, so I couldn't tell who he was or what he was doing. JK was looking up at him with an alarmed face. I ran to JK's side and looked at the man. The man was wearing a dark khaki overcoat in the middle of summer. He had a dirty mop of bushy gray hair, and his scraggly beard was stained with ramen broth. He reeked of alcohol. He was greedily devouring my instant noodles. It'd be no use asking him who he was or why he was eating my noodles. I was surprised, but not angry. Actually, I was scared. At that moment, someone from a group of troublemakers came out of the convenience store and shoved the man's shoulder, and another tripped him. The man in the overcoat lost his balance and pushed the table as he fell down. JK's instant noodle cup toppled over, and the broth spilled all over his legs. JK sprang to his feet and hastily shook off his pants. He said he was okay and wasn't burned as the broth had cooled already. The group of troublemakers were walking away, snickering. The man in the dirty khaki overcoat was staring at the toppled cup. His fingers were on the table, covered with noodles, and I couldn't bring myself to ask if he was okay. Shouldn't you apologize? You just made this mess, I screamed at the men. They looked back. No, we didn't. He did. And no one told you to sit there, little punks out at this hour, the men cursed inarticulately. The man in the dirty overcoat looked at me. Our eyes met in the air. He had yellowish eyes and a face covered with age spots. He reminded me of someone who was always on the drink, swinging at everything with his fist, and living like a dictator and a loser. What I expected to happen happened. I flung myself at the men, and two from the group threw punches at me. I dodged the first punch, but the second punch grazed my chin. JK stepped in to stop me, but got caught up in the fight as well. The plastic tables and chairs were turned over, and the no parking sign got kicked down. The part-timer at the convenience store had already called the police, as if we were used to such rows. We could hear the siren a minute later. We all leapt to our feet and ran in opposite directions, shouting at each other that we were lucky to get away this time. I was particularly good at fleeing. Sometimes I got caught on purpose, but now was not one of those times. I just continued to lead the way, checking whether JK was keeping up. A silvery car passed us by at full speed. Its side mirror brushed against JK. Stunned, he sank down. He'd just been discharged from the hospital after 2 months because of a traffic accident. It was natural that he was stunned. The car came to a screeching stop, and one of the men who'd hit us earlier stuck his head out of the passenger seat window. Watch it, we're letting you go this once. There'll be no mercy next time. And the car vanished with a roaring engine. Jesus, those kids almost hit him. Freaking A. JK slowly picked himself up, holding onto my arm. He looked uncomfortable. He must have hurt his leg when he fell. The inside of my mouth throbbed. Blood smeared on the back of my hand when I wiped my mouth with it. Where should we go? JK asked. With this leg, we're going back. JK began to walk, saying that he was okay. Look, I'm fine. I stood there and watched JK drag one leg from behind. Let's go back. I shouted at JK. I checked my phone. It was 4:50 in the morning. We still had some time to kill until the first bus came. I looked around and found a low hill beside the entertainment district. Have you seen the sunrise? I propped up JK as we walked up the hill. I sank down on the stairs at the end of the gentle slope. They say the sky is its darkest right before the sunrise, and it was true. No stars were visible in the pitch dark sky, but neon signs of different shapes and colors were radiating bright lights in the city down below. I turned my eyes northward. I roughly guessed the neighborhood that Mom must be living in. There, that must be it. She must be eating, sleeping, and cleaning in that apartment. JK, I followed Mom then. JK stared at me. I fixed my eyes on the light streaming out the windows of the apartment complex. Then, that night 10 years ago when Mom left home, that night when Mom, my sister, and I were beaten to a pulp by Dad and we cried ourselves to sleep. I couldn't recall why he beat us so hard, but I distinctly remember thinking, I'm supposed to go swimming with my friends tomorrow, and I guess Mom won't be able to pack a lunch for me. Will my busted lip heal by tomorrow? If not, they'll make fun of me. My shoulders hurt. I shouldn't have tried to turn to avoid his punches. My sister is weeping quietly. It was even more distressing to hear it today. Half asleep, I caught a glimpse of Mom standing at our feet, looking down at us. She was leaving. She was deserting us. I knew it instantly. I pretended to be asleep, but I got up and followed her. I didn't have any plan, and I wasn't thinking of living with her. I didn't feel bitter or scared. What did it be like to have no mother? What did it be like to live without one? It wasn't something you could just understand. I followed her for quite some time. In my memory, I walked all night, but my memory must be exaggerated as I was a little child then. She didn't look back, not even once. Was she really unaware of me following her? Maybe she was struggling to look forward out of fear of having to take me with her if she looked back. Of course, that thought came to me afterwards, when I struggled to grasp an understanding of her. Now, I don't know why I came this far. Hey, I looked up at JK's voice. I'm sorry. I gazed at him. What are you sorry for? Why are you sorry? You couldn't go see your mom because of me. JK answered. Are you an idiot? I flared. I didn't mean to lose my temper, but my voice got louder on its own, and my tongue continued to trip as I wasn't good at speaking and I didn't know how to express my feelings. Why do you feel sorry? People should feel sorry for you. What did you do wrong? I should be sorry for bringing you here. My parents, who made me bring you here, should be sorry. Those guys who picked the fight first should be sorry. I continued to raise my voice. You're a good person. You're as good as they could be. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. The sky, which had seemed to remain pitch dark forever, began to turn bluish in a flash. The light that permeated the sky from the furthest end sucked in the glimmer of the neon signs. We watched the sunrise without a word. The huge red-hot sun surged up over the apartment complex. Is Mom watching the sunrise too? The two of us sat in the back of the bus next to each other on our way home. It was before dawn broke over us. The road was empty and the bus continued to race along. I turned my head and looked towards the north once again. That night, Mom had stopped walking. She stood there motionless for some time. She didn't look back either. If I had continued forward at that point, I would have reached her. I could have held onto her hand and asked where she was going, where she was headed while leaving us behind, and when she was coming back. I could have cried, thrown a tantrum, and maybe pulled her back home, but I just turned around and returned home. My entire body ached and I couldn't go swimming with the others. I lay on the floor, sweating and trying to sleep. I didn't know why. It's that man again. Hearing JK's voice, I looked out the window, and a stooped over man in a khaki overcoat was walking alone. So wait, they've been on the bus? And the man in the... Oh, I guess he must have been walking and the bus ended up catching up with wherever he was at that point. Interesting. My eyes are cross-eyed.
My nose itches.
Her nose itches and my eyes are cross-eyed. We are on page 188. We don't have too much left. It's all the way up to 229. So not too much left. So the next is the next gray page. So the next area. I think that... Oh, crap. I don't know what you just said. Sorry. I think they saw him outside of the bus. Yeah, right. They saw him outside of the bus, but like they had to wait for the bus to come. So the guy had probably obviously started walking somewhere, and then they saw him while they were on the bus. They passed him again. This stupid thing keeps making noise, and it's bothering me. Anyway, okay. The direction where the sun rises is the next section. Let me grab some water. Put on some chapstick because my lips are getting chapped from talking so much. Okay.
Look at that.
Oh, JK and V.
JK is super cool.
What did they say? What? Huh? Can you do the thingy that you did a second ago? Possibly. Or I just didn't read it all the way. I don't know. Does Caitlin have to take a pee-pee break?
No. This urination situation is not here.
Did you say the urination situation is not here, but you didn't quite say that? And who says urination situation, number 1? What?
No, I'm good.
Possibly the tramp is Jungkook's father. Oh, I don't... What? I'm so confused. I think, I mean, I don't know, because she said it fucked up, but I think she said urination situation, but I'm not sure if that's what happened.
What about the words Caitlin mixed up together during the festive video? What
I mean, suppository?
Oh.
And supposedly? There's that too.
That happened.
Okay. So, we are now on... the next day, Hobie. Okay?
Oh, my elbow.
What? Did you say my noodle? Oh, my noodle. What?
My elbow.
Okay. So you were going to say, oh, my elbow pop? How did noodle come out of that?
I don't know. Ow. I don't know what just happened.
I definitely don't know what just happened.
Anyway.
I don't know. Apparently her noodle popped. I don't know what just happened.
Continue.
Stop it. Girl, what's happening? That's what I'm trying to ask for real. Stop it. I'm trying to tuck your sleeve. Leave it. Put your arm down. Jesus. I'll poke you in the side. Stop it.
Stop touching me.
Well, sit there so I can tuck your sleeve. Tuck it yourself.
Oh my god.
Big ass fucking sleeves, I swear to God. Okay. Okay, we are on Hobie, and this is the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm sorry, Jesse. I'm sorry. Okay. I ran into Suga on my way to the practice room from the hospital. I was heading to the practice room without realizing it and stopped. What would I even be able to do there? My ankle had gotten worse. The soft cast had been replaced with the real plaster cast. The doctor scolded me. You shouldn't strain your ankle. But I couldn't sit down while working at the burger joint. I had a lot going on at the practice room, too. Oh my God, I'm hiccuping.
Mm-hmm. It begins.
Brian's like, you had wings. You're going to try to read after having wings. You're going to be hiccuping and burping like crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. You have to be extra careful with your ankle. It's been injured before, and it might get damaged permanently unless you take care. The doctor kept saying this again and again. I entered onto the main road leading to my house on my crutches. I hadn't gone home at such an early hour before. I hadn't skipped training without a special reason. I came face to face with Suga. He was drunk and staggering at a crosswalk. He didn't recognize me as he brushed past. I turned my head and fixed my eyes on the walk signal. 2 days after my visit to JK at the hospital, I'd gone to Suga's workroom. He didn't answer my call, so I just went straight to his workroom. It must have been in the morning because it was before I went to 2 Star Burger. I knocked on the door, but no one responded. The faint sound of music streamed through the door. I thought of calling him again, but I gave up. I kicked the door instead. I'd known Suga since middle school. I knew how his mom had died, how her death had impacted him, and how he'd struggled afterwards. I tried to be a comforting, reliable friend to him. I laughed off his harsh words and took him around even though he thought I was annoying. But we were of no importance to him. We thought at least JK must be different. He surely knew what he meant to JK. He'd already heard about JK's accident from Jimin, but he didn't come to the hospital. What's worse, a woman who claimed to be his musical partner came up to me out of the blue several days ago. She told me that she found me after asking around with everyone. She said that she wasn't able to contact him. The walk signal turned green. I began to cross the crosswalk, staggering myself. I couldn't look back. I looked back as I bent my steps. I tried not, but I couldn't help it. Suga lay on the street in front of a car selling accessories. The vendor screamed at him as passersby frowned. When are you going to stop doing this? He looked up at me blankly. Do you think you're the only one going through tough times? Do you think I put on a smile in front of the others because my life is all rosy and bright? Tell me, what are you so upset about? Everyone knows you're good at music, and they all willingly put up with you even when you act up. Yes, you must have been in pain since your mom died. I know, but you can't go on like this forever. Aren't you going to make music? Can you live without it? Have you been happy even just once because of music? Why didn't you go see JK? Don't you know what you mean to him? Don't you see we're all hurting too? Don't you see that? Jesus Christ. Hobie snapped. Holy shitballs. I mean, I didn't mean to push him so hard, but I was really upset. It wasn't entirely because of him. I was upset that I was on crutches. Injuries were inevitable, but also fatal for dancers. I thought I had been on guard, but I got hurt at an unexpected moment. It was all my fault. No one else could be blamed for it. I knew I'd be nervous and conscious of my ankle every time I danced, and that'd make me dispirited. Or else I'd get injured again. And yet I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't live without dancing. I had to keep dancing despite being dispirited and injured. It's time to stop running away. If you're going to run away again, don't ever come back. I turned and crossed the street. Hobie. I thought I heard him calling me, but I didn't look back. I always blamed myself for everything that went wrong. I'd always thought I should have done this or endured that. I didn't want to live like that anymore. Next day. Suga. Is this next day or same day? No, same day. Same day. Suga. I opened my eyes in the middle of the night. It was raining. Curses came out of my mouth automatically as I picked myself up off the ground. I sat still for a while. My entire body was soaked wet with rain. I felt shaky and chilly all over. If you're gonna run away again, don't ever come back. Hobie's voice rang in my ears. All I could remember after JK's leaving the hospital was that I continued to falter, bump into things, and fail. Seized by drunkenness, headaches, fear, and despair, I was unaware of how much time had passed or where I was. That's when I came across Hobie. At that moment, I felt choked up. It was half joy and half relief. For some reason, I believed that he'd be able to understand my confusion and fear even though I couldn't understand myself. But Hobie looked away. He was pretending not to have seen me. Soon the signal changed and I just stood there watching him walk away. Then someone shoved me and I fell to the ground. I heard people screaming and clicking their tongues at me. Why didn't you see JK? Don't you know what you mean to him? Of course I knew. Maybe that's why I couldn't go into his room. I was distorted and thorny. Anyone who tried to come near me was bound to get hurt. I raised my head and looked onto the desolate mountain trail. There were two directions. I could walk deeper into the mountain, or I could turn around and go back down. I began to move towards the dark forest. I always took my chances at forks in the road. I had no destination. I had lost my sense of time. Maybe I was going around in circles. It felt as if my knees would give at any minute because of the biting cold and fatigue. I was out of breath and my heart was throbbing. What if I just collapsed here and died? Well, if I'm destined to die here, then this is where I'll die. I sank down. Raindrops fell on my face. It was dark. It was as dark with my eyes open as they were closed. I was drowning in layers of darkness. I thought of death again and again. I wanted to flee from the fears and desires that continued to haunt me. I wanted to run away. I wanted to run as far from that terrifying object that I was hopelessly drawn to but couldn't look at straight. That agony had pushed me from the one extreme to the other. Now must be the time. It was all for the better. I'd inflicted pain on others as I'd suffered great pain. I looked away from their wounds. I didn't want to take any responsibility. I didn't want to get involved. That was who I was. This moment must be a blessing for everyone. I blinked slowly and began to doze off. The cold, pain, and fatigue had disappeared, and I became numb to the darkness, the light, and my surroundings. Everything became dim. I opened my eyes again at the sound of a piano. It was silent, except for the sounds of raindrops falling and leaves rustling. Among the silence, the frail and delicate piano sounds continued to drift towards me. Someone playing the piano deep in the mountain in the middle of the night? I thought it was a hallucination, but it continued. I smirked. It was that melody. That melody I tried so hard to recall, that something substantial was missing. That made me stay up all night for days on end. Why was it coming to me at this moment of all occasions? I concentrated harder, but the tune was still barely audible and distant and interrupted by the sound of rain. I started coughing. I tried to stand up, but stopped. What would I do now, even if I could discern the melody? What would change, even if I completed my music? I had never wanted to be recognized by others, to receive applause, or to be famous. I'd never wanted to prove myself. Then what would it mean to complete this piece? But I pushed myself up from the ground with one hand and started towards the direction where the sound was coming from. I was staggering and my body was trembling. My face and my hands were numb. I couldn't feel my legs. None of my body parts seemed to be under my control, but I took firm steps one at a time to get closer to the melody. Heavy drops of rain struck my head. My shirt was dripping wet. Every joint and muscle seemed to scream. My legs shivered so violently that I couldn't lift my feet from the ground. My feet slipped onto the wet grass, and thorny twigs brushed against my shoulders. I felt chilled to the core and almost collapsed. My pace grew slower and slower. The piano melody had been subsiding with every step I took. I strenuously quickened my pace to find the source of the music before it stopped. I was afraid that if it did, I would never be able to hear it again. I marched forward, not able to tell the walking trail from the forest. I was struck by drooping branches. Then, suddenly, my knees crumpled and I fell to the ground. I was so out of breath that I felt like throwing up. All of my senses came rushing back, and I felt the cold, fatigue, and strange surroundings deep in the mountains so vividly. As I quickened my pace more and more, as I hit more and more branches, as my feet slipped harder and harder, the piano sound came clearer. The more severe the pain, the louder the sound grew. I finally stopped walking after wandering in the rain for hours. The melody was more vividly brought to life. It exploded in my head as it combined with what I had been composing until a few days ago. I covered my head with both arms and sank down. It was closer to a raw emotion than music. It stimulated my sense of pain rather than my hearing. It was a combination of suffering, hope, joy, and fear. It was everything that I had tried so hard to get away from. Suddenly, a scene from one bright sunny afternoon appeared before my eyes. I was playing a tune in front of the piano in my workroom. It was that melody that continued to revolve in my head. This sounds really nice. JK came closer. I chuckled. You always say that. It was not a single melody. It was a combination of various memories. From the days I used to playfully pound on the piano keys as a child. From the days my friends danced in sync with my performance in the classroom turned storage room. From the days when I stayed up all night writing pieces and inhaled the fresh morning air. My piano was beside me at every happy moment. These happy memories always ended up being shattered to pieces, but they couldn't be denied. What would it mean to complete this piece? I still couldn't find the answer, but there was something that preceded this question and the answer. I wanted to capture all of this before it scattered into the air. I wasn't able to please anyone or prove something. It wasn't even for myself. I just wanted to capture this emotion, pain, and fear, which were about to explode in my head and heart with music. I didn't have to signal the beginning of something. It didn't have to signal the beginning of something. It didn't have to mean anything. I just wanted to complete the music. The piano sound was no longer audible. The rain was gradually subsiding, but my body was trembling uncontrollably. I closed my eyes and felt everything surrounded me even more vividly. The raindrops that fell on my cheeks splashed onto the ground and flowed into a stream. The chilly wind, the smell of soil, the rustling sound of leaves, and my breathing. When I picked myself up, the sound for the mineral spring came into sight. I thought I had roamed deeply into the mountain, but I was back where I had started, and the path still stretched in two opposite directions. I bent my steps towards the direction where the sun rises. Okay, well, that's one thing that's starting to look better. That's one thing that's starting to look slightly better, and that makes me happy. Okay, we're on 198. We only have about 30 pages left, and we will be done for tonight as soon as we're done with this. What time did we start? About 8 o'clock? Mm-hmm. Okay, so. What you doing? Your mama?
Yeah.
Texting your mama?
She had to clean up after her own party.
Oh, no. She wanted you there to help her, didn't she? Mm-hmm.
No offense, look. I helped set up for it. I helped clean before it. I didn't take part in it. So why should I have to clean up after it?
I mean, that sounds fair. Okay. We are on Jimin. And I think we are 3 days later. Let me double check. Yes, 3 days later, Jimin. I checked the inside of the 2-star burger. Hobie was nowhere to be seen. It had been 4 days since he last showed up at the practice room. Someone said he told my dance partner that he'd take a break, but after that he didn't answer anyone's call. He didn't even read the messages posted in the Just Dance group chat. I knew his ankle was bothering him. Maybe it was that night, the night when my dance partner was injured because of me. It had rained that night, and he had carried her on his back to the hospital in the rain. His condition must be getting worse. As I stepped into the restaurant, the workers greeted me cheerily. Is Hobie off today? They said he was on sick leave, probably for 3 weeks, but they weren't sure. His ankle got worse. He had to wear a cast, and the manager recommended that he take some time off. I ran directly to his house. I couldn't wait for the bus to come, so I ran up the sloping road. It was scorching hot that day. My back was dripping with sweat, and I darted up the stairs to his rooftop room. The doorknob, heated by the sunlight, was burning hot. It was locked. I left a message in our group chat. Where are you, Hobie? By the end of the day, he still had not replied. That same day, Suga. I could finally manage to get up in the afternoon. I suffered from severe chills for 2 days after coming down from the mountain. I couldn't remember any details from those 2 days. I trembled and shivered with fear. I sometimes came back to myself but quickly lost it again. My sheet was soaking wet. I still felt giddy. I stepped out of my workroom trying to keep myself steady. I went to the hospital to get an IV and then stuffed food in my mouth, but I threw it all back up. I read Jimin's message while I was rinsing my mouth out in the restroom. I thought the number next to the message went down. Although the number to the next message went down, there were no replies. I walked along the railroad and arrived at the bus stop. There was an unfinished building in the distance. The construction had been halted for months. The music shop was slightly up the hill after passing by that building. I stopped in front of the music shop. There was no crackling sound of flames or a clumsy, slow piano performance. I didn't have the energy to bend down, pick up a stone, and throw it. The whole thing seemed like a distant past and made me wonder if it had really happened. I could see a piano through the store window. Don't you see we're all hurting too? Don't you see that? That was what Hobie said the other day. The memories of that day were all tangled up in my head, but I distinctly remembered that Hobie was somewhat different. It wasn't the first time that Hobie had been angry with me. He had never been on such edge, but he had always pushed, pulled, and encouraged me every time I fell. Why did it feel different? I opened Jimin's message again. Where are you, Hobie? Several hours had passed, but Hobie had not replied. I could see that I had let him down. It felt as if something inside me was flopping and thumping around. Hobie often got angry and pushed us, but he'd never lapsed into silence or looked the other way. He was the one who always paved the way for me to come back no matter how far astray I had gone. Not this time. It seemed irrevocable this time. My nose is itching like crazy. Okay, that was July 28th, and we're now on August 7th. So a little over, about a week and a half later. Oh. Okay, a week and a half later, RM. I switched on the light and looked at the flyer that was attached to the door of my container. It read, Redevelopment and Demolition. People must be talking about the redevelopment of this area again. There was always chatter about tearing down the containers lining the railroad and the squatters building across the railroad. I crumpled the flyer and threw it into the trash can. The talk of redevelopment didn't begin yesterday, but it always boiled up as if the demolition would take place the next day and then subsided after a short while. I put down my bag and lay on the floor. It had been a while since the sun set, but the inside of the container was still hot. I spent every night here after I visited JK. It felt exhausting. My nose bled from time to time when I was washing my face, but I always came here instead of the tiny back room of the gas station. No one else had opened that door and stepped in here. Maybe no one ever would. All those who met must part without exception. Oh no, all those who meet must part without exception. It could have been our turn, but if my eyes are like really crossed right now. Okay, I've been like reading for hours. I'm like, ooh, and my foot's asleep. Okay, let's try this again. All those who meet must part without exception. It could have been our turn, but if someone still felt the need for us to be together, I wanted to send him a signal that I was here. I wanted to show him that our hideout was still here and still lit. 4 days later, V. I came out of the convenience store after finishing my shift. I habitually took out my phone, but there were no missed calls or messages. It was sundown, and the street was full of people busily walking by. I put both hands into my pockets, and I walked on. A sultry wind swept across the road. I started to sweat after taking a few steps. How much longer was this summer going to last? I kicked the ground, frustrated. I kept walking with my head bent low and stopped in front of that familiar-looking wall. It was the wall where that girl drew her first graffiti. I automatically looked around since that night when I left her in the alley and came out in front of the headlights of the patrol car by myself. I hadn't seen her in my neighborhood. I discovered a large X sprayed over her graffiti as I tried to find her traces. What did it mean? Various images overlapped the X'd out graffiti. The image of her laughing at me when I tried to lie on the railroad and I hit my head, and how she got me back up to my feet when I helped her flee and I fell. How she lost her temper when I took her bread and ate it. How she looked gloomy every time she passed by the photo studio with family pictures on display. I told her as we sprayed this wall side by side, I don't think you have to carry the burden alone. Share it with others. The giant X was sprayed over all those memories. It seemed to scream that they were fake, that they were all lies. I'd never really looked at this wall since that day. I was about to turn around when I discovered a short sentence written in tiny characters under the X. It's not your fault. Was scratched into the wall. It was that girl. I didn't see her write it or recognize her handwriting, but I just knew. It's not your fault. It was that girl. I recalled the day I blindly set off to find Mom. I kept marching frantically, filled with seething resentment, but in the end, I couldn't get anywhere that day. While walking back home empty-handed, I turned my head towards the city where she lived. The city receding under the light of the dawning sun of the dawning in the east. I felt like crying. Something that I'd been firmly clinging to seemed to be slipping through my fingers. Lumps of hard feelings noisily fell apart. It felt sad and sorrowful, as if I'd given up something that I shouldn't have given up. It's not your fault. The sentence reminded me of how I felt that time. Started walking again. I passed through narrow alleyways and went up and down countless slopes. Finally, my house, Magnolia Mansion, came into view. I climbed the stairs. When I stood in front of the door, I could hear Dad's heavy breathing and the clattering of liquor glasses. I turned around, placed my hands on the guardrail, and looked out. The sun had already set. Its dim red tint was disappearing from the darkening sky. It's not your fault, I muttered. I took a deep breath, turned around, and went into my house. Sorry. The next day, Hobie. Whew. Sorry, my eyes are... Are you sleeping?
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, I saw. You were looking at me with one eye and the other eye was like barely open.
It's closed on the phone.
I'm gonna freaking slap a hoe. Anyway. Okay. Hobie. Someone shoved my shoulder as I got off the train. I dropped the ticket I was holding. It fell onto the railroad and slipped onto one of the cracks. I looked around. It was midsummer when I left, and it was still summer now. The train departed for the next station, stirring up wind. At the end of last month, I left Seongju by train from this platform. I watched the city receding out of the window. As far as I could remember, I lived in Seongju. I had never left the city and never imagined living anywhere else. I went to the burger joint and to the practice room on schedule. After dancing for hours, I went home and crashed. Although the town was small in Seongju, I had somewhere I needed to go, somewhere I needed to be. After my ankle was injured, my daily routine fell apart. I went to work in the practice room wearing a soft cast. The condition of my ankle worsened. With a full cast on, I had to take sick leave. I had the whole 3 weeks full of nothing. 3 weeks of no work, no dancing, and nowhere to be. I managed to get by in the morning of the first day. The rain that poured throughout the night stopped at dawn. I cleaned the house and organized my clothes. I got a haircut and wiped rainwater from the bench in front of my house. But I ran out of things to do in the afternoon. My phone didn't ring. Some messages from my coworkers and the members of Just Dance crew were all that came in. Still, no call from the others. Come to think of it, I'd always been the one who contacted the others first. I laid my phone down. I didn't want to contact them first this time. What if none of them sends a message? So be it. I remembered how I ran into Suga the night before. What I had blurted out was replaying in my head. I sprang to my feet and shouted into the air. He won't remember anyways. The way home seemed further than usual after I left Suga there. I had to go up the slope on crutches. Although the sun had set, the air felt sultry. It was also humid. I was drenched with sweat when I got home. I didn't regret what I had said to Yoongi. It was time for him to stop indulging in self-pity. But those moments, those words kept coming back to me. On the rooftop, I could look down into the city without me. On the rooftop, I could look down on the city without me. The train was passing through downtown and disappearing around the corner at the foot of the mountain. I carelessly threw my clothes into a bag and headed for the station. I browsed through the list of cities in front of the ticket office and picked the largest city nearby. I thought it'd be better to move to the large city. And just like that, I left Seongju. I got off the train after about 2 hours. As soon as I walked out of the station, I was faced with the bustling intersection. Rows of high rises and people busily walking by under the bright sun came into view. I took the first bus that stopped in front of me. Where should I get off? The driver looked at me like I was speaking nonsense. A passenger who asks his own destination? Yes, I must have sounded stupid. After about 20 minutes, the bus arrived at a neighborhood that seemed like an old part of town. I put down my bag in a small room attached to a market that had a guest house sign. I stepped outside. I couldn't tell which direction was which. I just roamed around the neighborhood for the first 2 days. There were no high-rises and no brightly lit commercial district. It was similar to my neighborhood where my rooftop room was on the slope. I had chosen to leave Seongju for the first time in my life and arrived at another Seongju. Maybe this was why. I tried not to think of the city and the people I'd left behind, but I lost control. I turned on my phone and thought about the others. I might have left Seongju, but my mind was still there. On the third day, I decided to venture out further, but in less than 20 minutes after I left the market, my shoulders began to stiffen with the crutches underneath them. Sweat ran down my back in under the scorching sun. A red brick building came into view. It was the Citizens Hall. While I was pushing the button on the vending machine, the door of the auditorium opened and several people came out. The sound of music streamed through the open door. I could see a man stretching in the corner of the stage with the spotlights illuminating his head. I couldn't say spotlights to save my life. Spotlights! I was headed into the auditorium before I knew it. As I closed the door behind my back, I was left alone in the darkness and music. I sat down in the closest seat. The sound of the music flowed through the air like lapping waves. The man on the stage moved slowly and stretched his legs, ankles, arms, neck, and shoulders. His stretching, which went on for quite a while, seemed like a piece of choreography in itself. Then the music stopped. The man who was sitting on the floor picked himself up and walked to the center of the stage. The stage was immersed in silence for a while. The music started again. This time it came down in torrents. The man quickened and slackened his moves to the music. His arms and legs formed not just straight lines and curves, but three-dimensional shapes. One moment led to another through his dynamic moves and gestures. His movements were creating a story that seemed to have no end. He pushed aside the air with his hands and sent reverberations through the ground, which sent adrenaline rushing not to my eyes, but to my mind. The pitch of the music grew lower and lower and led the man to a greater outburst of emotion. He roared with rage with all of his might and caught his breath and gazed at something far away. His suffering, hope, joy, and fear were conveyed unfiltered. Feelings that I'd never experienced before gushed and whirled inside of me. I wasn't aware of how much time had passed. The light of the auditorium was switched on, and I just sat there motionless. Someone approached me and asked me to leave because the dancers were rehearsing. Outsiders weren't allowed allowed to stay. The Dance Academy performance poster was attached to the entrance of the Citizens Hall. The man on stage wasn't featured in the poster. The performance was scheduled to take place the day after tomorrow. I came back to the guest house and lay on the wide bench in the backyard. I closed my eyes and thought over those hours at the auditorium. It was my first time to see a real performance in person. It was a whole different experience from what I had seen through that small window called YouTube. I might have been the more awestruck because it was so vivid and alive. I retraced each emotion and gesture that made my heart pound. At that moment, my phone rang in my pocket. "Where are you, Hobie?" It was Jimin's message. The number next to the message went down gradually, but no other message was posted after. What should I say? I had always explained myself half-jokingly, but I didn't want to this time. It was the first time I hadn't responded to a message directed to me. Our group chat fell into silence. I went to the auditorium at the same time the next day. I hid in the darkness and watched the man's moves. It was the same performance, but it all conveyed a different story and different emotions. Who was he? How could he express and convey all these feelings like this? The rehearsal ended. As I stepped into the hallway, I met the man's eyes, and what? You just made a sound. Oh, you yawned. I'm like, what? Jesus. I heard you go, huh. I'm like, what?
My jaw pop at the same time.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Oh my god, my throat's just dry. It's so dry. Okay.
Mercy, bitch.
Your face. The rehearsal ended. As I stepped into the hallway, I met the man's eyes as he was talking to the staff members way ahead. I bowed without realizing it. A staff member came up to me and said, "Oh, you're the guy from yesterday." The performance took place the next day, but the man wasn't in it. The performance, which had 4 chapters, didn't feature him. The show went on for over an hour, and I applauded and shouted out several times from my seat. But that was it. I couldn't relive the overwhelming moment that boiled my heart and froze my body. None of it could compare to his amazing moves. Why didn't he join that performance? I paced around the stage after the performance, but they were only staff members and dancers busily tidying up. I came across the performance team again at the train station. I was stepping onto the platform to leave for another city and saw a group of people gathered in the distance. They were obviously having trouble loading stage sets and all sizes of equipment on the train. I didn't have a set purpose when I went over and helped them. It was just that they looked confused and inexperienced, and I was used to arranging and moving things. My cast got in the way, but I was better than most of them who were just standing there around flustered. You're that guy again. I looked around and found the staff member. I didn't even thank you properly. The staff member came to my seat a little while after the train departed. He sank down next to the seat and said about half the staff had left because things got messed up. He added that they wouldn't have made it without my help. He pointed at my cast and asked if it weren't too much stress on my ankle, and I just waved my hand. By the way, that man I saw in the rehearsal, why wasn't he in the performance? He seemed confused at first, then he nodded. Oh, him. He's our artistic director. The staff member's explanation continued on and on, how he'd once been an acclaimed dancer, how he had suffered a terrible injury, how he'd undergone years of despair and frustration. Do you know the most amazing part? He surprised everyone and made a comeback as a choreographer and as a director. But the injury had left a lasting impact. He couldn't perform on stage again. The staff member gave a deep sigh. It was getting dark outside the window. I came to join and tour with the show by coincidence. I helped them unload their baggage on the next station, and my bag got swept away in the process. Fortunately, I had the number of one of the staff members. I got off at the next station, went back to the station they got off at, and headed to their lodging. It was late at night. I was invited to spend the night with the staff. I had breakfast with them the next morning and tagged along to the District Cultural Center, which was their next venue. The staff's proposal to join them and tour together must have been made partly as a joke. I also half-jokingly chimed in. At that moment, his practice began. I watched him blankly, and then I asked, "Can I really go with you?" I toured around 3 cities with them. We took a bus or train, got off, unpacked at a motel, stuffed food in our mouths, checked the stage at the performance venue, came back to the motel, and got on the bus or train again. The man stretched and practiced every day, no matter where he was. He never skipped a day, although he wasn't going to perform on stage. I made friends with the staff members and the dancers. Their dances and mine were different, but we shared the passion to express what we feel through movement. We talked about dancing on the train, and while we waited for the bus, we told one another about our favorite dancers and watched their videos together. I finally got to speak with him when I was showing the staff a video of the Just Dance practicing. "You're a dancer?" I looked around and he was standing there. I stood up, stooping slightly. I looked at the man. I was at a loss as to how to answer his question. I was hesitant to admit in front of him that I was also a dancer. "You're a dancer," he said, pointing at me in the video. That's how I first came to talk with him. "Why do you like dancing?" I nervously slurred the end of my sentence. "Well, that is, you know." The man asked me when I first started dancing. I told him it was at a talent show when I was at school when I was about 12. My classmates had dragged me onto the stage, and my body began to move automatically. I got even more excited with the clapping and cheering of the audience. I couldn't think of anything else. I just moved spontaneously after the music ended. I looked ahead, running my fingers through my hair, drenched in sweat. I felt as if I had thrown up all the lumps that were clogging my heart. It felt refreshing and rewarding. It took me a long time to realize how exhilarating it was, and that feeling didn't come from the audience's applause, but from deep within myself. The man pointed at me in the video and said that he liked my movements. Not every dancer can move like this. I watched myself in the video. I liked how I looked when I danced. I could fly into the air and off the ground and break free from the eyes and yardsticks of the world. Nothing was important to me except moving my body to the music and communicating my feelings through my body. Are you fucking sleeping? I swear to God. Is she sleeping, guys? Is she sleeping? I saw you closing your eyes.
Yeah, it's called blinking, dum-dum.
I don't know. I feel like you're falling asleep beside me. Is she closing her eyes for longer than a blink? Is she closing her eyes for longer than a blink? Is it happening? She's not sleeping. Okay. Oh, shoot. Guys, she apparently has fallen asleep to me reading on multiple occasions. Her eyes were twitching a bit before. Thank you, MJ.
Wow. Continue. I'm listening.
Okay. At points. Thank you. Oh man, that's funny. Okay. Okay. Nothing was important to me except moving my body to the music and communicating my feelings through my body. Off the stage, I was tied down by so many things. I couldn't stay in the air with my feet off the ground. I had to smile and laugh even when I was upset and sad. I used to collapse on the street taking medication I didn't need. There were moments when I could reveal who I truly was, moments when I believed I could be happy again, moments when I could let go of everything that weighed me down and soar high, moments I could reach heights unimaginable off stage. Dancing gave me those moments. I heard you overcame a serious injury. The man stared at me. I knew I was being rude, but I had to ask him. The man looked down at my cast and opened his mouth. Height is important, but so is depth. You have to hit your bottom. You have to go down until you can't go lower, until you feel as though you'll suffocate from your despair. Then you have to escape from it. What is crucial is to discover your driving force. In other words, you have to find what makes you stand firm again. Once you find it, don't ever let it go. It can be a person or a desire. It can be evil and disgusting, but stick to it. That was our first and last conversation. The tour continued, but I didn't have another chance to talk with him. I watched him practice every day and thought about what he'd said. Deeply, my darkest despair. What would make me stand firm against that despair? Do you live in Seongju? The director is also from there. A staff member said this to me when I was looking at the promotional leaflet in the lounge of the train station. The fireworks festival on the shores of Yeongji-cheon in Seongju, August 30th. As far back as I could remember, I'd seen the festival every year. It was held at the end of every summer when I was living at the orphanage. We'd all climbed up to the rooftop and watched the fireworks surging into the night sky and showering back down. After I left the orphanage, I lived in the topmost floor of a multi-household house in the highest neighborhood in Seongju. It was the perfect spot for watching the fireworks. Although it was a bit far from the fireworks display, it proved a wide, uninterrupted view. Did you change your mind overnight? The staff member asked me. He was the only one who had suggested that I join the staff several days ago. Oh, no, he was the one who suggested I join the staff several days ago. We thought you were reliable and talented. The other staff members agreed enthusiastically. Some even applauded. I almost said yes. I had become attached to them without even realizing it. Touring was an arduous job, but I enjoyed every moment of it. Even lying down on the bed at night, moaning and groaning, my ankle would heal gradually as I continued to work with them and stage more performances. Maybe I'd be able to audition and be selected as an official member to get to perform on stage. Maybe I would be able to receive training from the man and learn more about depth. I began to think this might be where I belong. The staff member told me to sleep on it, and I gave him my answer that night. I thanked him for his suggestion and told him I had to go back. Are you sure? He asked me once again, picking up my bag, and I replied, I have to go get my cast off. I got on the train at the opposite track. I'd arrived at Seongju station in 2 hours. It felt thrilling. I hadn't been pushed to hit my psychological bottom yet. It may never happen, but I thought about some moments after the conversation with the man. I won't ever contact you again. You live your own life. Don't ever come back. Maybe Suga had hit his bottom that day. Hobie. I turned around and walked on, and he called to me. I didn't look back. I abandoned him when he was suffocating from his own despair. I ran away. Are you okay? I sent this message after much hesitation. The memory of that day had been weighing down on me more and more heavily each day. Jimin's message was still posted in the chat. Where are you, Hobie? I sent Suga a message in another chat with just the two of us. His reply came at dawn. I woke up, startled by the vibrating of my phone. Suga's name appeared on the screen, and he sent me a music file. I put in my earphones and played the file. I listened to his music with my eyes closed, lying on the bed. It was beautiful and unlike anything he had ever made. Joy and despair intersected among sorrow, and a blue sea stirred beyond a desert. Flowers bloomed and withered, and notes leaped and fell headlong the next minute. It resembled Suga. I asked what the title was, but he responded with another question. When are you coming back? The train station at midday was quiet. People carrying large suitcases were coming down onto the platform to take the oncoming train. They reminded me of myself on the day I had left. what I was wearing, what I had worn that day, and carrying a bag of the same weight. But my ankle must have healed. It wasn't the only thing that had healed. I opened our group chat on my phone and posted the message. What's up, my friends? I'm back. How have you all been? Oh. Okay, so that was a long chapter. Hold on, I'm confused. That was August 12th.
Mm-hmm.
All of that happened on August 12th? And now this is August 13th. How did all that happen in a day? How did he work with them traveling around in a day? Maybe he was just recalling the story. I think he was just recalling the story. I'm like, hold up a second. Hold up a minute. Okay, August 13th. Hobie. I dropped by the Just Dance practice room for the first time in a while. I was met with the pounding sound of music, the air filled with the smell of sweat, and the room full of adrenaline. Sorry, I was adrenaline. I was filled with adrenaline.
Adrenaline.
I'm filled with adrenaline. Jesus Christ. Okay.
Wow.
Sorry, I was hiccuping. It was like adrenaline. Okay. My eyes are crossed. It's a lot of reading.
We don't have much left.
No. There's only like 10 pages left. 12. Okay. Adrenaline. Where am I? My heart fluttered every time I came here. After a round of loud, noisy greetings from the members, I sat against the wall and watched them practice. When would I be able to dance again? I was both impatient and thrilled. I thought of the man's dance. Would I be able to dance like him someday? At that moment, someone came close and sat down next to me. It was that girl. She tapped me on my shoulder, smiling, and said, "Where have you been? Where have you been? Were you having fun all by yourself?" The two of us in the mirror were sitting side by side, leaning against the wall. "How have you been?" She made an expression that seemed to reproach me for such a rhetorical question. I continued to gaze at myself in the mirror. "Have I told you about my mom?" I must have repeated it 100 times, but she always listened to my story enthusiastically. She must be living happily somewhere, right? Then I'm okay. Even if we never meet again, it'd be okay if we were both happy. She stared at me. "And I thought you looked like my mom, but you didn't. I had been busy finding this out." She looked confused. I chuckled and continued to speak. "So when do you depart?" "No, that's not what I was going to say. Congratulations, it was your dream." She bent her head and raised it again. "I'm sorry, I should have told you first." "Well, if you're sorry, buy me a meal. I'll throw you a really nice farewell party later." I deliberately smiled, a big smile, and made a fuss. "Let's meet again someday as famous dancers. Work hard, because I'm not going to let you outdo me." She nodded. The two of us in the mirror sat next to each other, leaning against the wall. It's so funny how his character is so him, it seems. You know what I mean? Ugh, okay. Next day, Jin. I saw her for the first time by the railroad. Why can't I say railroad? Railroad. Every time I can't say it. Railroad. I want to say railroad. Railroad. I can't. I've been reading a lot. I saw her for the first time by the railroad.
Do you need me to finish reading?
No. I got this.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I have 10 pages left. It's fine. No, I have less than 10 pages left. No, about 10 pages left. Whatever. I got this. We're good. I'm getting delirious.
Railroad and continue.
Railroad. Hold on. I got the giggles. Hold on. stomach hurts. Oh, my stomach hurts from laughing.
I
Okay.
started to like laugh and cough
Oh,
at the same
God.
time, and I
Oh,
like
that's so
swallowed
funny.
in a bubble of air.
Oh, why was that? Why did I just start laughing? Why did that just happen? Oh no. Okay. Oh God, I just had like the. Why did I just have a giggle fit?
Okay.
Why did that happen? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, I don't know if I'm good, but I'm gonna drink some water.
That hurt. Okay.
I just read someone say Anitra has lost it. Yeah. What just happened?
No. But wipe your face off.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm reading your comment.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Ooh.
Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what just happened. I have no idea what just happened. Oh God.
You realize you cannot pronounce the word railroad correctly, and it just went.
It just went downhill. Because I'm like, how many times have I tried to say railroad this entire time?
And each time.
It just gets worse.
Okay. Right. You good?
I'm good.
Tears gone?
Okay, I think we're good. I just like made my voice sound even worse. Oh my God.
At all.
Jesus Christ, that just made my voice sound 10 times worse. Okay. I sound like a man, baby.
She looking like a man.
Okay. And don't read it again. I'll just say RR. No, that's RR. They came across the RR. Oh, the fuck. I'll just try to say railroad. I'll just try to...
Railroad.
Okay. But I have to go like railroad. I have to like say them separate words. I can't say them together.
Railroad.
I can't say them together to save my life. Railroad. He went to the railroad. Like really pronounce it. Railroad. Train tracks. Here we go. It's so much better.
Yeah, until you...
My mom can't say aluminum, so she goes tinfoil.
There we go. Train tracks.
You the real MVP. Okay. I saw her for the first time by the train tracks. Get
it together!
Okay.
You're stressing me out.
I'm sorry. Jesus. Okay. Jesus, we only have 10 pages left.
I'm talking about me.
It was about a month ago on a day that I had a lot on my mind.
Wait, who?
It's Jin. Sorry,
Okay,
we're on Jin. Next day. Sorry. It was about a month ago on a day I had a lot on my mind. I went to see JK at the hospital, but stayed there for only about 10 minutes. I rarely even talked with JK when I was there. For some reason, JK was tense and kept his guard up against me. No message was posted on our group chat. Hobie's message, which said he wouldn't keep in touch anymore, was the last. I felt like the message was aimed at Suga, but whenever I read it, it seemed like it was directed at me for some reason. I left the hospital and walked on blindly. I realized after some time that I was in front of the train track crossings.
Get it together.
The railroad crossings. The crossing bar was down, and I could see a train approaching. Oh, this is the highlight reels, isn't it? I could see a train approaching in the distance. It reminded me of the time when I got on the airplane alone in my childhood. It might sound silly, but it felt similar. What was I expecting? Whatever it was I not supposed to expect something like that? Was that sense of belonging to no one more than an illusion? What was this emptiness? Was I all alone after all? What did I do wrong? This train of thought continued with the strong wind stirred up by the actual train that passed by. The train disappeared from sight as fast as it had approached, but the bar went up and the crossing opened again. She walked towards me, swimming against the flow of air brought by the train. She dropped her diary as she slid by me. Her diary was her wish list: taking an Italian class, joining a temple stay program, volunteering at an animal shelter, taking a barista course, and sharing earphones with her boyfriend while taking a walk. Smeraldo was one of them. Underneath a magazine clipping of Smeraldo was the following paragraph. Love is not primarily a relationship to a specific person. It is an attitude, which determines the relatedness of a person to the world as a whole. If I truly love one person, I love all persons. I love the world. I love life. If I can say to somebody else, I love you, then I must be able to say, I love you and everybody. I love through you the world. I love in you also myself. From The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm. I did a lot of things with her for 1 month. We took walks, sharing earphones and listening to music like she wanted, and volunteered together at an animal shelter. We couldn't do a temple stay, but we took a bus and traveled to the last stop and spent time at our favorite cafe. Smeraldo is a flower that is said to only grow in the northern part of Italy. I dropped by a large flower shop nearby, but no one had ever heard of the flower. Then I found the small flower shop still under construction. It was at a corner on the left side of after crossing the bridge to Mundhyan. Mundhyan. I didn't have high expectations. Mundhyan is where V's mom lives. Right? Yeah, I think so. Phosphate, Italy representing. Whoop. I didn't have high expectations when the owner, who had been organizing some documents in one corner, approached me. Upon hearing the flower name, the owner stared at me for a long time and told me he would be able to deliver the flower, although his shop was not officially open yet. Why does it have to be that flower? She didn't know that I had her diary. She'd never been able to imagine that I'd follow the list in her diary for all the things we'd done together over the past month. I didn't return her diary or tell her I had it. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was almost deceiving her. I tried to come clean a few times, but I was afraid. I was afraid she might leave me, just like my friends. I was afraid her heart would turn cold when she got the glimpse of my mistakes, wrongdoings, foolishness, and fear. I wanted to make her happy. I wanted to make her laugh. Every time I made her happy, I felt as if I had become a better person. I felt as if my shortcomings were being put out of sight. I had just one more thing to prepare. It was a flower that meant the truth untold in the language of flowers. Ooh, so Smeraldo means the truth untold. The owner seemed baffled at my request to get a hold of the Smeraldo flower by August 30th and said it'd be difficult to find one by then, but it had to be that day. A display of fireworks was scheduled to take place at Yangjichon Stream. She was fond of the night sky. I was thinking of confessing my love for her when the fireworks burst into the night sky. I was thinking of presenting her with her favorite flower and confiding my heart at her favorite time in her favorite place. Jesus F frickin' A. Was that the night he stopped his car and went to the truck to grab the flowers to meet her and she was crossing the street?
That's what I'm thinking in my head. As soon as you start talking about flowers.
Oh my God. So he was actually like dating her and was about to confess his love to her. And he watched her freaking get hit by a car. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh God. And he just looked so numb when he watched it happen. Like the look on his face. It was just numb. Oh. Oh, God. Oh, okay. I don't want to cry. Okay. Oh, let's go. How much does Jin have to suffer? That's what I'm saying. Jesus Christ. He's only had to live through all of his friends dying multiple times over and over and over again. And they finally got past that, are now continuing on in their lives where they're all alive still, but shit's still going wrong. They're slowly finding their way, it might seem, I think. And then this has to happen to Jimin. Jesus Christ. Ugh. Oh, okay. V. This is that Jin was on August 15th. V is August 29th, the day before the festival. This is V. Oh my god. There we go. It was Hobie's idea to get together to see the fireworks. After his return, our group chat started buzzing and humming again. We told him how we missed him in a reproachful and welcoming manner, and Hobie responded playfully that we should have realized the importance of his existence earlier. Make sure to come for the fireworks. We all said yes. RM would arrive after his shift for his part-time job, and Jin also promised to come, however late, after his appointment. I was reminded of my dream when I saw the message. A woman getting killed in an accident with Jin watching her. That dream ended with fireworks. White petals of flames poured down from the night sky. So V had more dreams, and that was one of V's dreams. Oh no. I shook my head to dismiss these thoughts. The venue of our gathering was RM's container. I sometimes took a walk in its direction when I couldn't sleep at night or when Dad got drunk and acted up. I didn't walk up to the door or stay for long like I used to. I would just turn around when I passed the train station to catch a glimpse of it. But the container was lit every time. I hadn't realized how unusual it was until recently. It was always lit, even when he must have been asleep. I realized that it was a signal for us to come any time. I had no way to know. It was just an assumption, but I was confident. Still, I couldn't knock on the door and go right in because I didn't know what to say. The fireworks are tomorrow. I'll be able to make it on time if I leave as soon as I finish my shift. Wait. In the highlight reels, the date is August 30th. In the highlight reels, which is the day of the fireworks. But he ends up reliving that day because the first time he doesn't catch the vase and it knocks over, then everything happens. But then at the end, he's getting ready again and the vase tips and he catches it. So does he end up turning back time after all of this to start everything new again? Oh my god, I'm so confused. Oh my god.
I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the white petals on fire are all represented in a bunch of different videos and represents the members. Wait. So wait a second. I'm so confused. Hold on. So is him... I need to finish reading this, but... Okay, so hold on. So does he set the petals on fire after the girl gets hit by the car so he can reset everything? Because although he reset everything already... and it kind of worked out, but shit still happened. It didn't work out completely because she still died. So does he press the reset button again after she dies to start everything all over?
You gotta finish it.
What's happening? I don't know what's happening.
Let's go.
I just saw shitty vampires. I don't know what's happening. Okay, let's continue. Okay, Suga. August 30th, the day of the I almost said parade, fireworks. I got off from the bus and strolled along the railroad. Stop it! I'm trying.
The railroad.
Railroad. I got off from the bus and strolled along the railroad. Containers emerged from the distance. I saw V from the bus window on my way here. He was also walking towards the direction of the containers. The others must be coming too. I completed the piece several days ago. I changed the version I sent to Hobie a few more times. I gave it the title Hope. Oh, fucking soap. I can't. To be honest, the title didn't actually match the piece. It contained my fear, cowardice, and inferiority. It contained all the moments I tried to avoid, get away from, and reprimand myself for, but I couldn't think of any other word that could encompass it all. RM's container appeared. Someone was standing out front. It wasn't visible, but his face wasn't visible, but based on his physique, it was Jimin. I stopped and looked around when someone called me from behind. That someone was waving at me in front of the first container. Jin, August 30th. I received the bouquet of Smeraldo flowers at the last minute. It was past the appointed time, and I was looking at my watch impatiently. Fortunately, the delivery truck appeared before she did. The flower shop owner was driving a truck with the flower Smeraldo logo on the side. Sorry, the fireworks festival held me up. After the truck left, I discovered there was no card in the bouquet, which I'd ordered with the flowers. I called the owner right away. I'll make a U-turn now. The light just changed. It was the goddamn delivery truck. Oh my God. If he hadn't made the phone call about the goddamn card. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. Before the owner finished his sentence, she came into view walking towards me from an intersection from the far distance.
Son of a bitch.
Oh my God. No wonder he wanted to turn it back because he feels it's all his fault. Oh my God. Ugh. Okay. Oh, okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. JK, same day. I have 3 pages left, guys. Oh God, Jin's after this section. I can see Seokjin in the back here. Okay. I honestly, I don't remember reading any of this stuff. I arrived at the railroad really early. The air had cooled down after the sunset and it was dark. This is JK, by the way. I thought of going into the container but decided to sit on one corner of the platform across the railroad. It had been a while. I said railroad! I said it! I said it like a normal person. Oh, I'm so happy. I've been struggling for so long. I said railroad. I did again! I did again! Oh my God. Okay. Sorry. It's the little things, man. Don't make me laugh. I just rolled off my tongue and I was like, oh my God, I just said it.
I said it like a normal person.
I said it like a real person.
A real boy.
Like a real boy.
Oh my God.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh God, okay.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
All right. Suga appeared at that moment, walking slowly with his eyes fixed to the ground, and looked back. There was Hobie behind him, loaded with down with bags in both hands. I felt uneasy and agitated. I was excited to meet them, but I couldn't just enjoy this moment freely. I had been wanting for so long for this moment, but wanted to turn around at the same time. The first set of fireworks. Stop laughing at me! Stop it! The first set of fireworks burst into the air without warning. The white flames surged into the middle of the night sky and exploded into millions of sparkling, blazing petals with a big popping sound. We need to get it together because this next part's going to be really bad. Jesus Christ, I can't.
Fine.
This next part's going to be really bad, guys. And warning now, this next part's going to be really bad. Works. Jesus fucking Christ. Stop it. This is a serious sad part of the book. I'm not supposed to be laughing. Oh no. I'm not supposed to be laughing. Oh no. Okay.
Oh God. What is wrong with you?
I've been reading a lot. Jesus. Most people just read silently. I'm reading it all out loud. I'm beginning to become, but I can talk.
Oh God. Okay, we have 2 pages left. This is the most water you've drunk all week. I'm so proud of you.
Not all week combined. Thank you very much. Maybe in one day. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. This part's gonna be bad. This part's gonna be really
Yes, it
bad.
is.
I'm gonna not cry. I'm gonna not cry.
Got this.
Oh,
It's only
Jesus.
1 page?
Shh. Jin. Delivery truck came to a sudden stop after making a U-turn. Its headlights flashed. I stood there helplessly among the scene of crashing, bouncing, and falling. I couldn't hear or feel anything for a moment. It was the summer, but the wind felt chilly. Then I heard something hitting and rolling on the road. The fragrance of flowers tickled my nose. I came back to reality. The bouquet of Smeralda flowers fell from my hand. She was lying in the middle of the road. Blood began to spread out from underneath her tousled hair. The dark red blood flowed down the road. With a loud pop, the first set of fireworks burst into the air on the night sky in the distance. Somewhere, I heard a mirror crack. The mirror crack. Mirror crack, that's RM? I'm confused. Somewhere, I heard a mirror crack. I mean, I know, like, I'm trying to remember the webtoon. Okay, we'll see it in the webtoon. Don't worry about it. Okay, we won't, I won't, okay. Okay, I'm trying, because obviously I did see the webtoon. Okay, so, okay. Someone said, someone was asking if it was a Blood, Sweat, and Tears reference, but, okay. We are on the last 2 pages. It's called Epilogue Nightmare. And this is V. April 11th. So wait a second. Whoa.
We're going back in time.
It did. Everything reset.
We're going back.
Everything reset. Everything reset. Oh my God. Sorry. The mirror crack is a reset. Everything reset. Okay. Sorry. April 11th. V. Was that the beginning of this book? Well, no, it's not, because the beginning of the book is like Jin when he was a baby, when he was a kid. Okay. April 11th, V. It was dawn when I awoke. Dad's familiar smell and snore streamed from his room. Murky air on the other side of the piece of translucent glass inserted into the front door ruffled. It only took 3 steps from the narrow entrance where the shoes were scattered all over to the nearest bedroom, or all over to the master bedroom. I'd begun to sleep there since I didn't know when. I felt a pressure on my back and shoulders as I picked myself up. I stepped outside with a glass of water in my hand. I carelessly slipped into any shoes and walked slowly. I passed the police station, alley, and pedestrian overpass, and the railroad beyond came into sight. It was before the sunrise, and the street was immersed in a silence with no cars out yet. Someone's vomit from earlier in the night reeked. I walked along the railroad, 1, 2, 3, 4. I stopped in front of the 4th container from the end. It was RM's. I reached out for the doorknob and came to a halt. RM must be asleep now, and what I saw last night in my dream must be nothing more than a nightmare. I took a sip of water and turned around. The dilapidated station and railroad, abandoned houses, and trees and weeds that were growing haphazardly in between. A black plastic bag rolled towards me and then flew into the air. It was a poor neighborhood. In my dream, this area was enveloped in flames. The entire scene seemed to shimmer and wave. Maybe it was because of the heat, or maybe it was because I was dreaming. Someone's scream, some kind of crashing sound, the sound of crying, the sound of something crumbling, all came together and flooded in my mind. The images that shimmered in the far distance suddenly drew near at full speed. I felt nauseous and shut my eyes, but it was a dream. I couldn't get rid of them by shutting my eyes. My gaze, first blocked by flames, pushed through people standing with their backs at me until the next minute, and then stopped suddenly. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 4th container was RM's. The door had fallen off. There were bloodstains. Flames surged inside. People stepped aside one after another. The floor came into view. RM was lying there. Someone blurted out, "He's dead." I opened my eyes to find the ceiling of my house. I could hear Dad snore. It was all a dream. My palm hurt suddenly. I turned on the cold tap water and held out my palm. It felt numb under the jet of water. I filled a cup with water and drank it. It was a dream. A nightmare.
What is happening?
I don't fucking know. What the hell was that? Jesus Christ. I don't remember that. What? She wants to read everything that I just read to her. Okay, so obviously, I don't know anything about anything other than this and the webtoon, which I'm trying to remember from a year ago. Okay, so shit got reset, but why the hell is he seeing RM in flames in his container? I'm so confused. I mean, obviously, he's been having these premonitions through his dreams for, like, a while now. But, like, so I'm so confused. Okay, so hold on. So, up next is the webtoon. Okay? So I'm assuming the webtoon is next. Or is the game trailer next? I'm assuming the webtoon is next, because that should be the order that these things happened, correct? Webtoon is next. Can someone please... Okay, so webtoon, then the Mott's notes, which I believe people have already linked me the Mott's notes, so I should be good on that. I think I got an email to that. Then the game trailer is last. Okay, and then after the game trailer, it should be the Smeraldo vlogs, correct? So webtoon, Mott's notes, game trailer, Smeraldo vlog. Is that correct? Okay, I think everyone's saying yes. Okay, so, and depending on how long some of those things are, we might be able to combo some things. Okay. Yeah, I know that there's VCRs, but the VCRs might be from back, right? If there's like a prevalent VCR that we haven't, that would give us new information that we haven't figured out already, then let me know, of course. This didn't include answer notes? Did this not include answer notes? I thought this was everything up to Persona. Isn't that everything up through Persona? Okay, I don't think anyone has linked me answer notes. Okay, but someone else just said it should have all of Love Myself notes. Send them to me just in case. I can compare the dates with the dates and see. Okay? So if someone can link me or email me, either one, Mott's notes. No, sorry. Answer notes. Why do they make it so damn confusing? That's what I'm trying to say. If someone can link me answer notes, I already have the Mott's Persona and 7 notes as already. If someone can please link me, since the very next thing we need to do is the webtoon. Or no, I guess if answer notes are not included in this, the answer notes are the next thing we have to do. Because that came out before webtoon, I believe. Okay, so someone link me the answer notes, and I will look at it, and if I see that's something that's different, we'll read those next. And webtoon is first. Okay, I definitely need a link for the webtoon. I don't have I don't remember from the last time someone linked it to me over a year ago. I definitely need the link for the webtoon. Yeah. The webtoon ends on the same day as the book. Okay. So please link me answer notes and webtoon. A lot of people have been already sending me Smeraldo, the vlogs. I mean, I think it's just the Twitter page. I literally just have to follow the Twitter page that of their posting for that. Yeah. Okay, so webtoon next. Yeah, basically the book is like all of the things that you need to know without filler, I think. It's like all of the important shit that you need to know to follow the storyline is what is in this book. So it's not quite every single thing, but it's everything you need, basically. Caitlin's wide awake now. RM, what?
That's how my brain went. I was like, wait a second, what?
Yeah, seriously. I was just like, wait, what just happened? That's crazy. Okay. So, yeah. Please link me webtoon and please link me answer notes so I can check those out. Webtoon will be next week. Yeah. So we will do webtoon next week. Okay? Okay. Yes. Oh, that might be... I think I don't think we're going to be live, Webtoon Live. We're probably going to have to... I'm trying to think of how we can do it. Yeah. We'll have to do... We're not going to do Webtoon on live. We'll probably just record a video for the Webtoon. Yeah. Okay, but yes, if someone could please link that to me, that would be great. I know this has been a very long live. We are tired. We need to go because we have work in the morning and it's almost midnight. So, yeah. Guys, thank you for spending your evening with us. I appreciate it. Your entire day with us if you were on the live earlier as well. Love you guys. So yeah. Okay, that's it. So thank you. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I only say that on my normal videos, but you know, whatevs. But yeah. God, sorry for my psycho, like, loony bin, just like all of a sudden I lost my shit. I'm sorry. I literally just like lost it for a second. I just went, fireworks. Yes. Fireworks and railroad apparently are my things that I can't say.
It's okay.
I literally just like lost it for a second.
You did. It was funny.
Yeah. Okay, guys. I guess I'm gonna go now. Love you guys so much. Sorry if I made you cry. You're welcome if I made you laugh. And yeah, we will go now, and we're going to try to not be stressed out at work this next week. Yay!
Let's hope.
We will also be trying to record stuff over this next week because...
Yeah, I'm going to come bother you on Tuesday.
Yeah. Why Tuesday?
Because tomorrow's Monday. And...
She's like, because I spent too much time with you today. I don't want to see you tomorrow. I'll see you Tuesday.
Tomorrow's Monday, and I don't want to do anything on Mondays.
Yeah, I really don't want to. Well, I have a bunch of stuff, my own shit I got to record too. So, I mean, if I can, like, record something every day this coming week, that would be really good. We'll see if it works out that way. Okay. All right, guys. We're going to go. Thank you, guys. Love you guys. Bye. Have a good night. And we will see you pretty soon. Bye.